It is now 2:02 PM. Thursday, November 7th, 2024, and our regular meeting for the Board of Directors, Georgetown Divide Public Utility District. And I'd now like to take a roll call vote, please.
Sure. Director Saunders.
Present.
Director Stovall.
Present.
Director Thornborough.
Here.
Vice President Seaman. Here. And President McDonald.
Present. Thank you. Director Saunders, please lead us in prayer.
Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If there is no public comment for adoption of the agenda, I ask the motion to adopt it.
Motion to adopt the amendment.
Second.
Seconded by Director Thornborough. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously 5-0. Thank you. Okay, now we entering the public forum session. Please note the guidelines for the public forum as they appear on the meeting agenda. And always as a reminder under the Brown Act, the public must address all their public comments to the board, not to the staff or anybody else in the public audience. Due to the Brown Act limitation, the board is not able to discuss or take actions on items not on the agenda. Public forum is now open. I see no hands up. And on the screen, which is over here today.
Yes, thank you.
And over there. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, we'll now close it for public comment. Consent calendar time, approval of minutes for October 3rd and October 18th. Are there any board members that wish to pull any items? Okay. I will now, with no board member wishing to pull any items, open up public comment. Again, for the consent calendar for October 3rd and 18th. Okay. I will now close it for public comment, and would there be a motion then to adopt? Consent calendar.
Do it without the consent calendar.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously 5-0. Thank you. None opposed. Office manager report from the office manager. There she is.
We just stand behind the door and wait for an introduction?
Before we go into her, before you do take any questions from before Jessica, I just want to point out one thing on the grant report. There is 2 new grants that are appearing on the grant report. And these are not, I mean, these are just my copies of the grants, so. The first one is the Mark Edson Dam Spillway Inspection Project. So this is a grant that we're seeking $150,000. And we are gonna be paying $150,000 of matching money. This is to, so Department of Dams Safety Office, DSOD, is requiring us to do some safety things on our spillway, and this grant will help to pay those costs. So this is required work, and we're hoping to get this grant to pay for the required work.
And what section is that in?
It should be in the grant report.
I know.
It's under grants that we've applied for, I believe, the second section down.
Submitted, I've got 5.1.
Oh, I'm working on that one.
So there's another one in there? Oh, up, no.
I'm so sorry. I'm not following what you're
Well, I'm
asking.
trying to figure out which one you just talked about.
It says in the
it's-
grant report to Mark Edson Dam Spillway Inspection Project, 5.1 million.
No. Did I do it wrong? Oh, what?
You said 150,000.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm so sorry. The numbers are transposed. It's my fault. So the Edson Dam Spillway project should be the 147, and so I'll correct that. That's my fault.
Oh, and then.
They're,
one.
yeah, I'm doing that one right now.
Oh, got it.
So the second one is the Walton Lake Sediment Removal Project.
Yes.
So this is a little bit of a complicated one. This is a lot there's a lot of sediment in the lake. Some of it is from previous to the mosquito fire and some of it is from the mosquito fire, so. We are seeking some help in removing some of the sediment. So of the 5.19 million, 3.7 of that, we're requesting from DWR. 1.496, almost 1.5 is FEMA money that will come as a result of the fire. And then the district would be on the hook for the last $1 million. So the total project to do all the sediment removal is 6.2 million. But we can do it for $1 million if we're able to obtain this grant. So I just wanted to point those two out before we go into any other questions, and I will make the adjustment on the grant sheet. I got ahead of myself and I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
I thought more money was gonna be coming out of the, fire, the FEMA money for this dredging.
For the dredging?
Yeah, because we got all that sediment in there. I thought this was supposed to be added or part of the, either part of a lawsuit, part of something that we were supposed to get money out of that to do this
So we are
cleaning
seeking,
up of that, of
Yeah.
Walton.
I thought so too.
Well, good, thank you.
I did.
Yeah, I mean, so now it's like, now we're coming up with more money, we need to go in.
we are seeking money from additional sources to help with the sediment that is future going to go into into the lake. But FEMA, we did a study and an engineering, of how much sediment is in the lake, and FEMA is contributing $1.5 million from what's in there now, so that is what the fire has put in there. The other sources are, potential litigation, where we could utilize some of that funding to, remove sediment, and it's to remove future sediment. A lot of the sediment that we're removing is prior to the fire as well. So that is where the district is on the hook and where we're trying to take this other grant and utilize some DWR money to remove additional sediment. Does that help? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm still not. I was under the understanding we were getting money from, we were seeking money from another source, to get this taken care of. But maybe it was my misunderstanding, or I heard something I didn't really hear.
Well, I mean, like I said, there is another source that we are seeking funding from, but it's this. I'm just trying to do quick math, I apologize. So it's like 4.7 million of the sediment is previous to the fire. So that stuff that's already was there that should have been scheduled to be removed. And so we're now adding this because the fire exacerbated the problem. And so basically we got about a third more sediment in like 90 days than was originally in there for the last 10 years. I'm not trying to be confusing. I'm trying to, there was a lot of sediment in the lake previous. The fire put a lot in a very short amount of time. And so that's what FEMA's covering. So that's the 1.5. They're basically the rest of it, the 4.5 million was sediment that was there previous to the fire. So we're trying to remove that as well. So we can kind of start with a clean slate.
Just like the sediment there before is due to another fire, so that was due to the Kitty fire, so.
Yeah.
Not a lot of that. A lot of that sediment has remained in Stumpy.
Mhm.
There was a big fire around the whole lake.
Sure, I understand, and a lot of that sediment is in Stumpy, did not move down the canals.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's, this is,
Not just the lake you're doing the
Between the-
ditches too.
we're not doing Stumpy at all. This is
Oh.
just for Walton.
Oh, well, okay.
Then we had the trailhead fire right out here,
Yeah. that's right.
2016. That was pretty nasty. It dumped a bunch of stuff
In the
everywhere.
ditches, probably.
Thank you. Look, kind of answers my question. I thought the ratio was different. 25% of the sediment is, I thought it was switched, and I did remember what the Director Seaman was talking about, so thank you for answering. Go ahead.
Just one question, the Edison spillway, where's that source?
They're both DW one.
Could you put that on the chart?
I did add it. I added state versus federal. Yeah, I added it yesterday, so I didn't want to,
Okay.
but it will be added. It'll be changed.
I think,
I didn't have anything else. I just wanted to make sure I pointed that out, as a new grant. And then if there's any questions for Jessica on any of the financials. Oh, I do have, sorry, I do have one more thing. One of these days I'm gonna get my act together. On the investment report, you may notice there's a new investment. We purchased I'm just trying to make sure I find what this actually is. Whatever,
what page?
this is not on there. This is just, we purchased I wanna make sure I'm saying it right. The investment is a 5-year at 4.07%. Either, I don't wanna say for the treasury or
Or a CD, right? Just trying to figure out.
it's whatever is underneath our investment policy. I just don't wanna say it incorrectly. Anyway, we had one mature, and so we rolled it over into a new investment vehicle.
QSIP number. It doesn't say, it's one of the two. In either case, it's the current yield down about 0.75% from what it was 4 months ago.
That's all. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure I had all the updates.
Yeah. Just, oh, Director, sorry.
Now, I was gonna say, that wasn't the medium class one, we still didn't move anything to have that come out yet.
No, I got it.
Oh,
I just
You were
want to
done.
confirm that you guys have the. It should be through September 30th.
No,
That's what Donna has.
no, I have
That's all
June.
that's important right now.
That's what I was the question I had is,
Oh, that's a good.
I have dated July 16th, but it's through June 30th.
You got a mention.
The staff report.
It's a quarterly one.
Investment report.
It's a quarterly one.
Which one are you, what are you at?
We're talking about the
Are you making?
full cash, budget to actuals.
I'm going, oh. Well, it was on the, investment.
So we get the investment report
Oh, here it is,
quarterly
right here.
and we just send it to you. We keep it in there. So we'll update that quarterly. We only get that updated quarterly.
Right, that's my point. This one expired June 30th and we're in November. So it seems like there would be another quarter.
Investment.
Oh, yeah, I know where it is.
Hang on, let me find it.
Has my name on it, but it comes directly from Brad.
It's,
Yeah.
it's in, have two, couple pages back.
This is all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
have we gotten one since then? I don't.
We should have gotten one
September.
in October, but we haven't.
I will check in with them and we will get a current one and I can email it to you all and we can post it as part of the board record.
Well, I would say probably put it in the next board meeting, because
It
we
will be, yeah,
we don't have any, you can email it to each of us, there's no kind of discussion that can be going on or anything.
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
I will bring it to the next board meeting.
Well, I'm kind of confused, I thought you were gonna do a report and then we would ask questions about it, and we seem to be doing a whole bunch of questions before you did any kind of report.
Well, my question was, is what I have in front of me, because it says finance committee on the top, is what you received? So that we're talking about the same packet?
Yes, it is correct. That is,
Okay,
the finance committee, language was,
not updated.
Correct.
Okay, so my apologies. So these reports are as of September 30th. There's a budget actuals, check report, pooled cash, purchase order summary, and the vendor purchasing report year to date, beginning July 1st. And if you had any questions, same, especially in the month.
I have a question on page 102 of the pooled cash report. If you go down to the cash in bank, the third one down. Has to do, this is page 102 on pooled cash. Talks about cash in bank, the California class investment pool was reduced by $147,000. What's the backstory on that?
so okay.
We periodically transfer money out of California class to cover operating costs.
Okay, so it went to operating.
We utilize our California class account, much like, we would do a savings account. So we used to hold that money in our savings account at El Dorado Savings Bank. Unfortunately, the yield was 0.83%. And we are able to utilize class the same way, same day liquidity, where we get 5% yield.
Yeah, we got more accessibility without being locked into a term.
Oh, it's
And
same
high
day
yield.
liquidity.
Huh?
It's same day liquidity.
Yeah, that's great. So,
I got a question on the investment report. I know that it's a little bit outdated, but it says that there was a interest earned of 400,000. And then it says that, then we purchased a federal agency bond for 400,000. Now that 400,000 was interest on the investments, right?
It's interest on the treasuries and the CDs, yes.
Okay. I thought the interest on this stuff was supposed to go into CIP, but it was instead used to reinvest.
So we haven't made any CIP transfers yet. We do that typically with the audit, and I was waiting until that time, so we should have another one that would become available, because they're every 6 months, they become available.
Okay.
And my thought process was when we do the CIP transfer, the audit, we would transfer a $400,000
Okay.
investment.
Right. Good
Some-
answer.
Something to note,
Thank you.
something to note when CDs mature and treasuries mature. When you buy a treasury at 400,000, you buy it at discount, so at maturity, it's then worth 400,000. So you buy it maybe for 390,000, and at maturity, you get the 400,000, but when you buy a CD, you buy it for 400, and you might get 410. So it might look a little confusing, like you're just getting your principal back. But really, you only bought it for 390,000, but, so if you ever wonder why that might not work out, and for CDs, it looks like you did get interest, you bought the treasury at discount. So, yeah, so. Okay,
Oddly, I've never wondered that.
yeah, go ahead.
I've never had the kind of money to.
That's what I was gonna say.
Let's say you bought your own.
This is above us, huh?
Yeah.
It's all in
Nothing we've
percentage.
ever had to stress about.
Okay. Any more to add, Jessica? Any more comments from the board or questions? Then I'll open it for Christina.
So the water resources is at 59,000. What's,
Start with the check number.
oh, it's in, page 2 of 3. On the vendor purchasing.
Oh, and we purchased it.
I was just curious how much more, we've got to spend with him.
His original contract was 105,000, I wanna say, with a 10% potential over, according to our purchasing policy, and so we've not, a little more than half, I'd say.
So are we about done with him except for one meeting?
I don't know what current billing we're on, if he has billed us. I don't know how current we are in with billing. I could check in with him to see where we're at.
I'd like to see what that bill was
Yeah.
for that Auburn Lake Trail Town Hall that was not open to the public.
I will do my best to see if that's line itemed out and itemized in there. It should be.
Okay,
It should be, his invoices are pretty detailed.
There is a section of this that is being paid through the zone account as well, and so we can make sure that that is coming out of the zone's portion of the rate study as well. Cause the zone has, both the water fund and the zone fund are paying for a portion of the rate study because there's two separate enterprise funds. And so that particular meeting, since it was zone only, can be paid through the zone fund.
Yeah, and it should be being paid out, because every meeting we went to, we had to listen to about the zone fund and everything also.
Oh, well,
So that all should be coming out, there should be a percentage of that coming out of the whole,
100%. Yeah, we are splitting it.
and this would be on top of it, which would be about $5,000 or more.
It's not quite that much.
Well,
'cause
you also have the cost of staff that had to go to it, and that needs to be pulled out also.
we don't build that to like the rate study though. So that's just, I mean, we build that as staff time, and so salaried members get whatever they get. And so that's not extra. That would go into like the rate study like fund. But his time, and I know he was here visiting another water agency that's local. So I don't think his travel was fully billed to us. I think it was split as well. So I don't think it was a full $5,000 of what his meeting costs were. I think it was a little bit less than that, but I can get you some information on that.
Okay.
I'll now open it up to public comment, question.
Okay, on the checks. Mesa Energy, the 66,000, it's number 36727. What are they doing now? What's Mesa Energy do? Yeah.
I could look it up for you.
I mean, what are they doing for the district, do you know?
It's a project Adam's working on. I don't know exactly.
Doesn't it?
Not without doing a little bit more research.
For 66,000, okay, then check 36758. Gary Lou. I believe this is probably her Medicare payment that used to be on the billing and then it hasn't for quite a while. She's a retired employee.
Oh, I know.
Mitch, what? Like, I'm trying to figure out.
So Jerry Lou is a retiree who we pay her entire medical and then she reimburses us the difference besides her allotment. So every retiree, depending on when you retired, retired on a particular contract or
Right.
benefits. She gets $177 retirement, this is public information. Anything over that, she pays us back. Well, we've had a major issue with her insurance company, so now
Oh,
she's paying it and we're sending her her allotment.
okay, and we're no longer paying her husband's?
She's paying all of it on
Okay.
her own.
So, okay, because before we were also paying her husband.
That's how it's supposed to be, yeah.
Well, I thought it was just the retirees that we paid.
Not if they're still married. If they were married at the time of retirement, we don't pay, no. So it depends on the contract under which you retired.
Right. She, prior to you coming, there was her name and his name being reimbursed,
Yeah, so now she's paying the premiums,
and she's only getting whatever her
her
contract. Okay,
specific contracted allotment.
And then on 36749, I'm assuming that's like a workshop that Alexis went to. 900 and something,
36749. Is
She
it?
paid for her airfare for Aqua
okay,
or CS, whatever that
CST.
Yeah.
Indian Wells
Okay.
was,
okay, then on the investment
for her
report,
hotel.
on the first page of your, report, the last,
I don't have a copy of it.
oh, you don't? Okay, it says during the quarter, one treasury bill matured in the amount of 100,000. And then you said you purchased blah, blah, blah. Can you put the percentages in there?
I can ask them, they produce these reports.
Well, this is your report.
It's a report that we get and we put our name on it, but it was given to us by the,
Well, it would be nice to know what the old rate was and what the new rate is of whatever you're investing.
Yeah, that's why I added the 0.75%.
Yeah,
Yes, just to
So
help out.
whatever it is.
If it's in writing, then you
a
know.
Blah, blah, blah,
Put it
matured
on the
for
first
certain
page.
percent, and then we reinvested blah, blah, blah for another percent. Just to see how because we don't get that quarterly thing. I mean, what, every quarter with the list. So you actually can't track what's going up and down.
Right.
That's it.
Is that on the
I think
first?
it's this part,
It's the last paragraph.
the one that says
On the
during the
first page.
quarter.
Yes. See if they can just quickly.
And that 400,000 I was talking about, if it ends on an even number, it's treasury. If it's not, it's probably CD.
Yeah, because like you say,
Yeah.
then you wanna know how much interest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are good questions. Thank you. Anybody else from the public? Okay. Then I'll close it for public comment. Any other staff comment, questions? No. I'll open it up for informational items, and board reports. After all the reports are given, the public could comment and question. How about Director Snowball? Sir?
Great, yeah, you haven't talked about finance committee. I just returned from the special district leadership conference. It's something that I highly recommend for all members of the board. I realize it's not required of board members, but I think it's required. It would be a strong benefit in getting grants and things like that, and I think it will raise the knowledge, skills, and abilities of the whole board. I found this, there was 20 hours of training. And I found it very, very beneficial. For example, in regard to the strategic planning, the strategic plan is currently in our court. And after hearing this, I really want to flesh it out a little bit more. Looking at expenditure lines and timelines.
That would have been better on our first year, not on our third year.
I agree, and I can understand where people are working full-time to take 3 days off of work. This was a lot of time. To my knowledge, it's available online. Nick was able to get me a scholarship, so there was a minimal cost in the training. And I'll put together a write-up of some of the nuggets that I got from this training and submit it for the minutes.
I went my first year. I thought it was the right time to go.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob. Anything else?
No, not.
Okay. Then we'll go to Director Saunders.
So, I went to, the Cal Lafayette conference at Yosemite. That was during our special meeting. One of the significant workshops was, dealing with, mutual water companies and, which was significant because I got a lot of information and options for, dealing with Quintet Service Corporation, which is one of the mutual water companies that we have here, and plus there is 4 or 5 other mutual water companies in the county, and some of them are flagged as failing. I went to the Quintet Service Corporation board meeting. If I didn't put a date on there, that was October 28th, and they had their engineering report was going to be done that Wednesday. The engineering report is completed with their recommendations for what they need to do for the district. That was sent to GPUT, so when that's all fleshed out, we will probably have a report coming to us. And I will have some options coming to us as an FMI. Regional Water Authority had its executive board meeting. We should have a survey to send back, and that'll be kind of important since there is only a few of us from Northern California, so I'm north of Folsom, so to give surface water input into the groundwater part of it. Aqua meetings, plenty of aqua meetings, the Headwaters Work Group update will be in the federal one. And other community events, Divide Chamber of Commerce. I went to that event yesterday, and there's a regulatory update on the legislative reports for the water use efficiency and urban water management plan.
Anything else?
Unless there's any questions.
Okay. Director Thornwell, you're up.
Well, we went and watched Nick give out a whole lot of candy on Halloween. And, typical turnout, it was awesome. Charlene was bebopping around and the train dropped, so, and Alexis was there and Liz was there. It was pretty good. Except
Kids were there.
The kids were there.
My wife
We
was
were
there.
way up at the end of Church Street. That was quite a walk for me. But no, it was a big success.
Cute little story. Our granddaughter went there, her grandson went there, and some kind of lit up skeleton costume, so. Grandma was there taking pictures and told them to stand over here. Well, it was some other kids. And so the parents were just sitting there watching grandma directing this kid in a suit to stand over here. It's a great turnout for
That's funny.
That was it.
Yeah, thank you. Vice President Seaman, you're on.
We didn't have an irrigation. We've one in 2 weeks, and we'll be going over all the documents, prepping for irrigation season next year.
Thank you for that report. And I have nothing to report, and we had no finance committee meeting. So with that, I will open it up to the public.
Oh, we're gonna go through all the reports, I think.
Oh, okay. Alexis?
Yes. Well, so Alexis, I'm gonna go first, if you don't mind. I'm sorry, I just deleted where I was at, and I had gotten exactly where I wanted to be. I will be the lovely Adam today.
We didn't do it for all days, did we?
I'm so sorry.
The strategic planning and.
Those are.
Oh. Okay.
Oh, good, thank you. Okay, so, Adam's operations report is. Somerset. We ended the irrigation season at about 81% full on Stumpy, so that's great. We still have quite a bit of water, have already seen some early rains, so we're hoping to have a good fill this year. There will be a much more detailed report about irrigation and water served and stuff like that at the next meeting. We were still waiting on a few of the data points to make sure that it was a thorough report, but I just wanted to make sure you all know that we ended at 81%. If you look at the pictures, a couple main breaks, guys were fixing some of the breaks. There was a couple in downtown. There was a big one that happened down on 193 that actually lost quite a bit of pressure, and it took them almost a whole day to fix. If you go to page 5 of the report, you'll see this is our diversion dam where we divert out of Pilot Creek. We had to buy a winch because the cable car that you see laying in the river there, the cable and the tree that the cable is attached to died and broke the cable. So we had to attach it to a different tree, and this is them reinstalling that cable. So this is a cart that the guys ride in to go across the diversion and access the other side of the river as needed. Very remote location. So it's not easy to get in and out and do work down there, so. Moving on, I will make the announcement in open session because it was a question. The Mesa Energy is the generators that we have for the 4 different pump stations, so I apologize, I didn't remember that we're working with them. But that is one of the things that we're working on, one of the big projects that we're working on right now. Tunnel inspection is scheduled for, I think, next week. So that's another big one for capital improvement. 2 new grants. The FEMA we actually did get some good news on the FEMA money. We're starting to receive some, hey, your money is just about ready type of communication with FEMA. So we're hoping to get some of those. Have heard on the HMGP grant and the USDA grant that we're just kind of working on some of the last bits of exemptions and things that we need to put in. You'll notice the water report, we used basically the exact same in the residential use, a little bit more in gross water use in October. And that is all I have for the operations report, if there's any questions.
I would like to give credit where credit's due, and I don't know whether it's due to weather changes or because of anything the district did to plug leaks and stuff. But I see the residential uses has been pretty consistent over the 4 years, plus or minus. But the gross water usage is equal to or slightly less than 2021. And I wonder if 2024 was extra hot. It was in October, but I didn't know so much about June or July, but 2021 was just about as high. And I wondered if there's any explanation for that. Adam's not here and you weren't either back then, but I was wondering if there's just a quick, I don't know, or
It's probably due to the weather. We did have a warm October this year. And so I would, if I were to guess, I would say it's because of that.
and it was also the other months, which wasn't so hot, but so were the other years. So anyway, I just want to know if there's, yes, we did this and because of that, we could give the staff credit or the crew credit or the district credit for plugging leaks and being more efficient.
I wish I could give you that good answer, but unfortunately I can't. I know some of that water is, we had some big main breaks. So that 192, the big number,
Yeah,
is a lot of that can be attributed to large main breaks.
Okay.
We lost a lot of water through that.
okay, thank you.
And if you remember, we also had a lot of rain in October.
Yeah,
Last year.
2021, we had almost 14.5 inches of rain in October.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes it good.
Thank you.
Questions on the monthly water demand assessment? When we look at the difference between residential for 2023
Mhm.
and 2024, there's some identical numbers between the 2 years.
Mhm.
What's the backstory on that?
I would say that we're staying consistent. I would have to do some more deep diving and see if there's any kind of issue there. But
Okay. To me, it's,
Suspicious.
so, yeah, red flag.
yeah, like we can look into that.
Okay,
Kinda
thanks.
weird.
Cause you look at the previous year, 3 years, and we don't see that pattern
Right.
at all.
Which one's it?
No, I see what you're saying.
The Georgetown divide, page
That's
7,
the same, that's the same, that's the same.
7 out of the last 10 months are the same.
Okay.
It's a giant.
Sometimes, I know sometimes in that, one thing I can say is that in the even months, we guess. So like, for example,
Kind of what I
and
expected.
so we may not have gone back and updated them. I'll check into that.
Mhm. Good. But, any other board member? Okay, moving on to the, Water Resources Management report.
We had escrow or annual inspection. We got 10 escrows. They've been going crazy this last month. Let's see, we got 2 new inspections. One of the escrows resulted in the new pump tank, which is always good. We did have almost 0.2 inches of rainfall. That was also nice. We kind of had a busy month. We had our Sequino spill cert on the 1st. On October 8th, I worked with Cardiograph to get a emailable, if that is a word, annual septic report for all of the ALT customers. So now I can just easily forward their septic report, because before it was going through a separate software. Once we switched to Cardiograph, I didn't have that. I was screenshotting. So I finally got it figured out. That was fun. We did a safety day with CWEA, it's California Water Environment Agency. They're a big, collection system, septic. They do treated water and stuff like that too, but it's a new, company that we're, subscribed to. That was down in Woodland. That was helpful. A lot of, sanitary sewer overflow updates, stuff like that. And then I attended a septic installation course on the 18th with, Steve Powell. It's Colorado's septic something, but Colorado has very similar regulations to California, and California doesn't offer the classes, so I took it for some continuing education credits. And then, as Director Thornborough stated, we did have the Halloween booth that I attended. We have absolutely no real good info for weather. We're equal chances of a bunch of stuff, but they just keep saying, we're switching into the, what is it, Nino, which I still don't know if I believe it or not. And, yeah. That's it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I see a lot of the crew in my neighborhood, just by chance, or maybe because we're a community, this condensed residential area. I saw Jason again and, oh, okay, and he was checking my meter. And then for the second billing cycle in a row, I said, weren't they just here checking it? He says, yep, your meter doesn't transmit. So he said there's a lot of meters that after we do the route, I have to keep coming back, especially on this street. And he was checking my meter manually again. So whatever that's worth.
I wonder if it's because you're kind of down in that canyon, like going in.
But you're driving.
But it's picking up the truck.
I know, that's weird.
But some on the street work.
So a lot would be a misconception. It's about 30 throughout the district that we have to go back and read.
Oh, okay, that's it,
Same
mine?
ones.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, sometimes if the transmitter, the radio transmitter probably needs to be replaced. I'm sure that we put in for it.
Yeah.
So it's the same 30 every time?
I mean, I can't answer that question, I'm sorry.
I think so,
Yeah.
yeah.
And was curious to note, a couple of guys were there. I like these guys. They're always, just so, oh, okay. And they were swapping out a meter, and it's a new build.
Oh.
And then they were putting in a 1-inch, and I was wondering why that 1-inch wasn't in there to begin with. They said the customer requested a 1-inch, and I'm thinking, it's a new build. It needs to be a 1-inch. That's what they told me. Yeah,
Fire sprinkler.
I mean, it could have,
yeah, but they started with the,
Get that.
anyway, just curious.
they could have, I don't know, done their plans years ago. We're dealing with one right now. He's been fighting with the county for like 5 years. He's had his plans in for septic with us and meter and all that. He had a 5/8 installed
Mhm.
originally when they first bought the property, and now the county's, they're doing bickering back and forth over permits.
Uh,
So maybe that might be the window long enough to where that 1-inch mandate came in the fire sprinkler, so
Oh.
he probably had to update.
Yeah, he told me that it took several more months to get where he is now
Yeah,
than he planned. Okay,
I wonder if it's the same guy,
probably.
Dave Elliott, I
Yeah.
believe.
David Allen Elliott.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, we talked quite frequently with the
thank you.
common last name.
Yeah. Thought I had one more question, but that's all. Any other board member? Oh, go ahead.
What's the warranty on those?
3 years, I think, the year, it's either a year or 3 years, I'd have to do some research.
That should be all under a warranty that these are.
Oh, yeah,
Get replaced and then,
we send them in for warranty all the time.
yeah, but what's the labor getting billed out to that's extra cost on their defective products.
Yeah.
We can find it out if you want us to.
That would be a good idea, to start getting money back from these guys that,
We're probably not gonna get the money for the labor back.
well, it's the same way when we weren't gonna get the money when they were supposed to notify and that was a cost on the,
The mailers or the?
yeah, and remember I was, oh no, we're not gonna get the money, well, we
We got a
got
few
some of
thousand.
it off.
Yeah.
So, what should do is ask and see if we can get some kind of reimbursement for those extra costs.
We got thousands back, I recall that time. Better to poke an eye.
They didn't bill us $4,000.
Right.
Huh?
They did not bill $4,000.
For $4,000.
Yeah.
That's still money in the bank.
And I wanted to, oh yeah, that was the other thing. I recall last year when they were checking the hydrants. And they had a hose that had a leak in it, like the kids do at the playground, where it's got 1,000 leaks and they run through when it's hot. That's good in the summertime, but not the winter. But somebody replaced, made sure their hose now in the winter, they aren't gonna get too wet in the winter. So thank you for taking care of the guys on this, they had a good, solid, intact hose without holes and leaks in it. That's what I want to say. Thank you. And then we'll move to the last item in this section, and that's the general manager's report.
Yes, thank you. You can see what I've done. I had my last JPIA leadership meeting yesterday, was able to graduate the program, it was a year-long leadership training program. Great program. Adam is actually there now, so he has started on the same program that I was on for him to go for the next year, so that's why he's not here today. You can see, again, as was previously stated, got to hand out candy to the kids at the Halloween event, which was fun. Got my whole family to come up here and participate in that. And then for anybody who wants to know the breakdown of the grants, I included that as part of the good news update. You can see which different entities will be paying for the different portions of the grant. And you can see some photos on the end there of the event and our booth and some of the other costumes that were involved. So we did get the water drop, and had a couple of Simpsons characters come and visit us, and we had a purple minion and some other things, so that was a lot of fun.
She looks so tall.
That little tiny guy, and they were like.
I don't, but look how tall she
They
looks.
were trying to keep in the costume, it was actually really cute.
And then lastly, I was invited to speak at the Aqua Conference, so I will be speaking on the Thursday in the morning in regard to rate setting and outreaching for rate studies.
No questions from the board. I'll open it up to the public. Go ahead, Sheree.
Okay, back to Michael Saunders' report. What, at the quintet meeting, did they get their grant? Has that started? I didn't hear because,
Yeah, they had, their grant is in, they've actually finished the engineering report and it was sent to GPUD, so when it's finally reviewed, it'll come to our board probably.
oh, so they got the engineering.
Yes,
And are they waiting for anything else? Just that report?
yes.
Okay.
Report's finished, so.
Okay, and then those generators that they're installing, how are you gonna be protecting those? Cause I know someone asked that on the board. Cause I'll guarantee you they'll get stolen. Especially if they're in remote areas.
We can look into protection there, and they're underneath our insurance.
I hope it's still. It seems kinda, it should probably be housed. Oh, the air, well, yeah, it's like,
Like a cage or something.
yeah, something. And then on Alexis report, the new inspection, you got a figure there of 68,349. That dollars or,
No, that's lot 68 and then
Oh.
lot 349.
okay, maybe an M.
Yeah,
Okay, and then maybe say what?
it does look.
Okay, well, it looked like it was
Run on.
68,000.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
just curious about. And then. I guess that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Dowd, anything else? Thank you. Any other board members? Okay. Okay. Committee reports, irrigation.
I already gave it, done.
Didn't have a meeting.
It-
Okay, no comment, and the next meeting, November 19th, got it. Finance committee, we're still all nothing.
Yeah, there was a conflict of, who could be there when, so we're gonna work on it again, same time next year, I mean, next month.
Okay,
Problem with us, we keep asking for them to come up with a report back on the budget, and now it's coming into, we're into November. We're not gonna have a meeting before we start making that deliberation, and that's causing,
Absolutely.
okay,
We're meeting November 21st.
sure. I know somebody who might be interested.
21st.
Yeah, I gotta follow up on someone. He's the treasurer at the Auburn Lake Trails Board of Directors. He expressed an interest to be on the finance committee.
Right.
So, take note. Okay. So we have a quorum next time. Thank you. Ad hoc committee for us, the labor negotiations.
Nothing going on.
Okay. And strategic planning? Nothing.
We updated the plan. It's basically kicked back to Director Siemens and I to do a final review. As I mentioned, I want to try to embellish it with some of the things I learned at the leadership training. From that point, I believe it's going to go to staff for their input. And then to the board for.
Back to you all, back to the committee
boards.
and then to the board.
And then to the board, so.
Yeah, I made my comments already. There were a few, but now you're gonna have more. So,
Yeah, I'm gonna add things like timelines, I think,
okay,
but not, it's embellished, not.
yeah, cause I was talking to Liz about trying to get it where you're doing it directly on the document so we can see
Yeah.
it live.
Yeah, I'm able to do that. I'm just outlining my additions and highlighted in yellow.
That's Director Stovall, you finished?
Yes,
Okay. Any other comments from the board? Okay. Questions from the public? Go ahead, Jury.
Is there any way that we can get our act together on the irrigation and finance committees? Because probably in the last 6 months, there's probably been 5 or 6 meetings canceled. Right at the last minute. So is it because people aren't showing up? Is somebody calling them ahead of time? I mean, so if they don't show up 2, 3 times, or they're part of not being the quorum.
Right.
You know, I mean, if you got, I don't know how many you got on the finance, but you could take maybe one off of irrigation that never shows up, and then you wouldn't need as many people.
We have an opening on the finance committee if you'd like to join us.
It'd be perfect. We have about 3 openings, I think.
I mean, it's not, these are volunteer committees,
Well,
so.
irrigation, we canceled it as Chief had canceled it. It wasn't one that nobody showed up.
Okay, well,
And we've
whatever.
only had, I think, 2 for the year that actually, we couldn't
No
get,
quorum.
we couldn't get
So
a
that's
quorum or act
3.
together.
It's just 3 for irrigation.
Well, no, that's 2, but
plus
But
people.
GBED canceled.
Yeah.
That we had decided as a group that we were not going to do certain months. And so
Okay,
that was one that got canceled,
so when's the next one?
the 19th,
19th.
We will be putting on a calendar for all the committees,
November 19th.
going
And then
over what, they're trying to bring down the amount of times that they're meeting.
Okay.
And so we will be putting on a calendar that is when they are mandatory, or we need to hold a meeting,
Right.
and when there are some that are tentative, where if there's an issue, we will hold a meeting. And then there are some dark months that we're going to be putting out in December.
Okay. Then another question is on the strategic committee.
yes,
3 years ago, when they held the big strategic plan down in Northside, there was a customer survey. And in 3 years, I've never seen that survey, addressed. That was supposed to be, and it was in the report once it came back to probably in December. And I have never seen anything addressed with all those questions from the survey.
that survey, if I recall, was in the past 2 strategic plans and
Well, the first one that I saw was in 2021. I didn't see one.
I think there was one before that also.
Well, I'm talking about the 2021. There was a survey. I helped with it,
Not very
the whole
familiar.
thing,
Right.
and never heard another thing from those comments.
And we've elected to recommend at this point not to do the survey.
Right, but are you addressing some of those issues that were probably the same issues?
That'll become to your awareness when that strategic plan is
That's what I'm saying.
presented to the board in a public meeting.
Right, so you guys are looking into that stuff. Okay,
What I'm saying is you'll hear the answer to that in the future.
okay.
I really can't discuss it at this point.
Well, I know, but I just want to make sure you guys are discussing
Thank you.
the thing.
Is that true? I just want to comment, finance committee, mostly it's a lack of a quorum or availability, and I don't call them personally to recruit them and follow up and all.
We
But I-
do. we
You
call
do.
them and email them.
Yeah, but personally, but I was gonna say that as far as being prepared.
Yeah.
We're game on. We got everything we need to go, and up to the last minute, it was somebody couldn't make it, so. It's all prepped. I see Flo, who could make it, you know, Elizabeth, I believe, is coordinating all this until the last minute. It was like the night before, the morning.
Oh, it was, no, it was that day, because I was getting ready to sign on and Steve comes over and it's canceled.
It was, we found out the day before and we were all out of the office and we did not get a chance to send out the cancellation notice. So I will apologize for that cancellation notice not getting sent out in a more timely manner. But it was, we had been coordinating with everybody. We send out email reminders. I text with all of them. So it's not like we don't have a communication stream with the finance or the irrigation committee. I mean, I think it's unfair of the community to harp on a volunteer committee and expect them to be here all the time. That's a large commitment of them to be here, and we
Okay, that-
appreciate them. Sherry, I understand your comment. You've had a chance. I'm trying to address what you said, so please allow me to address what you said. They are making a large commitment to this district that is an unpaid commitment, and there are times where they're not able to make it.
And also, we need more members.
And it also takes my time away that I'm scheduling that time and find out a half hour or 5 minutes before that the meeting's not being held. And that's happened more than once.
Well, I remember when the finance committee was disbanded. I had to step up to the plate and eventually become a board member to reinstate with the rest of the crew. So I'm saying if the community has a problem with that, maybe the community could step up to the plate and volunteer to be on the committee. You know, cause you'd be great. So it's, I'd like to pass it over to Donna.
The one thing maybe, to look at, because I've been asking for multiple months information to come back to the board. Is there an ability to send something out to the committee and have them review it and get it back and then compile it? Cause I had been questioning the budget and wanted to look at the budget. I wanted to see them, to see the numbers and it's been what, since July, August, that I've been asking for this from the committee and we still haven't gotten anything back. So I guess I'm asking the liaisons or how can we work with this committee to get something, to get a product back? Cause you know, we're in a crucial time right now to have the information and now it's coming down to a wire. So, you know, has there been another thought pattern on how to maybe work with that group to get them to, come up with information? I'm just trying to come up with a reasonable way, you
As
know.
I recall, one of the holdbacks that the committee couldn't go forward on was waiting for the final audit. So we were dealing with
Not the audit, the
audit, but
end of year
different
numbers.
end of year expenses.
So that
So
was 1 month.
we need the inputs to be able to
Right,
develop some outputs.
We've
Yeah.
only had the
And
end of
that's
the year
something.
numbers for about 30 days.
Yeah, so we missed one meeting
We don't get them
since we've
until
got
October.
those numbers.
Remember?
Is there a way we can ad hoc it?
Yeah, I was thinking, yeah, good.
well, something, that's, you know, that's what I'm looking at too.
If
It's
we
like,
ad hoc it, so there's no quorum required and all that sort of thing,
Yeah.
that make it a lot easier on the committee members. It would make it so that we wouldn't have all the meeting cancellations.
To me, that's a frank question.
Yeah,
Is it-
that's good. You
I look at, you
Let me-
know,
Can I ask just a clarifying question? Are we considering an ad hoc for one of these standing committees?
Yes,
We're asking a question about ad hocing the finance committee instead of it being a
Can't do that.
committee like it's set up now under the Brown Act and all that. We ad hoc it, so there's no quorum, so they can still hold meetings.
so an ad hoc is a temporary committee, so you have
I
to,
get that.
you'd have to have
There's-
them.
there's
hold
a-
them for a short amount.
I'll say for anything where there's serial or continuous jurisdiction, that has to be a standing committee. because the ad hocs under the Brown Act have to be for a specific definite period of time for specific one-off projects. There's actually a case in Fresno right now being litigated by the First Amendment Coalition, accusing the quote-unquote ad hoc committee, that's really the finance budget committee, of violating the Brown Act, and I think they're going to be successful. So we should stick to it as a standing committee, unfortunately.
So the answer is no.
Yeah, and I would also add it's finances and you want to keep that transparent, so you keep that out there.
Yeah, the public would be able to go down.
Frank, so, Director Seaman is asking for an outside the box legal workaround. Do you know of any? Can you make any recommendation? That we could get this information other than having a quorum at a meeting?
If you want a subcommittee that's advisory of the board, it's going to have to be a Brown Act body.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Dowd, go ahead.
Stephen Dowd. Yeah, it was kind of a little disappointing with the rate study over the last 4 or 5 months. And we've needed these irrigation and finance committee meetings to hold meetings to get this information to them so they could make decisions and let their irrigation customers know or whatever, because this is very important. And without these meetings, I mean, information just wasn't getting out or getting to the board members in the proper time. And like Sheree said, we were trying to come here. Both of us are trying to come here to go to these the irrigation and finance committee meetings, and they'd just be, disbanded.
Well,
I don't know.
We have three
It's kind of-
positions,
kind
we
of
have
a
three
low-
positions open on the finance committee. I'd love to invite you to join us.
Mr. Dowd, we had someone that was ready to go, and because of health issues, she couldn't. But she was not gonna be so much like as an asset, a outside the box, if you will, again, thinker on ideas, and she's active in the community, and she could pull those inputs from the community. Just someone, a living, breathing person in that room that's part of the committee, just to be a member, which would then allow there to be that quorum. It could be you, because you're here. You could be the equivalent of what I thought she would be. You're even more plugged in. So it could be you, sir. You could be part of the solution. Thanks for bringing it up, but I'm just saying it's all it takes, sir. Yeah, that's all. Go ahead.
And the one thing that we did bring it, if you remember, the numbers to the irrigation committee. And that's when we found that magical 4-point-something%, which now, since that time, it's gone up over 5%. So, we did go over that at the last irrigation committee we had. But, there is not we didn't really do it. At that point. We just were just had their eyes open.
I have a suggestion for the finance committee. Can you send the information individually to each finance person? They then send it to the leader, who was his name? Chairman, the
Mr.
chairman, and then the chairman sends in
No, that is a Brown Act violation.
because they're sending information.
That is 100% a Brown Act violation.
Okay, what if you send it individually and they don't respond to each other, and then they send it into the office?
I still see that as a Brown Act violation.
Frank's shaking his head no.
No.
Look at Frank's.
But what was that?
But they're not
this
conferring with each
holy-
other.
It's about where it ends up.
What was that stupid thing that was being?
They're indirectly conferring with one another. So, whether they directly or indirectly, you can't, it's still a form of a serial meeting, unfortunately.
Individual emails to the office, not to any other members.
If those individual emails are going to a centralized hub, and then that information is then being modified, consensus being formed through it, then we have a Brown Act issue.
Okay, Bruce.
Modified consent.
You said
Bruce,
You're locked up, right?
Sheree, I think the back and forth, we have to be really careful. Let us have the conversation, please. Frank, the last sentence.
I was just saying, if you're sending it to a centralized, individual, And that individual is taking all of the collective feedback and creating some kind of modified or revised document or analysis based on that. You've had indirect Brown Act violation. It's a serial meeting still.
Or just directly to the board.
And the comment was made or directly to a board member
Or president.
or president.
That's gonna get the board president in a Brown Act violation. Any board member should be able to see that as a violation.
These are all permutations of the same serial meeting.
Well, okay.
They don't monitor.
Well, I'm gonna try to recruit someone else and see if we could get higher opportunity or chances of getting a quorum moving forward.
There were the two, maybe you can get with,
Yeah, we've reached back out to them. so-
I'm saying if he gets with them
Yeah.
and maybe tries at a different angle. Just
No, I'll
throwing
be
it out
happy
there,
to.
and I haven't seen the one that wanted for irrigation recently, so I'll be pounding on him a little bit too.
You know, they reach out to us, we tell them the process and that they need to submit some sort of letter of intent or resume or something that they are willing and able to come be a part of the committee, and it's typically where the communication stops.
Yeah. Okay. I guess if there's no more public comment, we'll move on. Open up to action items now, number A, letter A. Receive legislative update and develop district positions, Director Saunders.
So in your packet, you should have received federal update from Vectus and, the Aqua federal update is here and the CSDA updates on their, at their legislative session, the three things that they were looking to cover in the legislative session. It looks like there will be a majority each way in Congress, so a bill being passed, moving our way, hopefully, so that's what we're looking forward to. From Aqua's federal committee, we have an update that came out on election day. And the request was for a coalition letter for Water Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act amendments. This is a bipartisan amendments that have been put forth from Congressman Garamendi and Congresswoman Cherry. And with the funding, this is broadening it to expanding to lower the minimum project size for small communities from 5 million to 1 million. So this will make this program more accessible for rural areas and water districts like ours as well. And it also expands some authorities and capacities to support small and rural communities. So one of the asks is for us to support the amendments to HR 5664 and to join the coalition by signing this letter. So that's the first action item, if there's any questions on that. And that one is in front of you today, because that's a brand new update, because that was Tuesday, which was 2 days ago.
So you may have heard this as WIFIA, and it's just a funding mechanism for the federal government to get grants and other funding mechanisms out to the water community. So anytime those take place, we like to support those because obviously we can utilize the funding.
Any comments, questions for Director Saunders?
I think he's looking for a motion to be able to sign on to that letter.
I move that we sign on to said letter.
Second, by anyone? Second by Director Thornborough. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Motion passes unanimously. Go ahead, Director Saunders with the
We
letter.
have a copy of that letter and that needs to, you'll let them know that they're signing on today, so that needs to go out by Friday, I believe.
We'll take care of it.
And then I also attached the letter of Aqua's comments on the EPA draft risk evaluation for, DINP. That's a plasticizer used in, making up PVC piping flexible. So if there is any EPA, recommendations and follow-ups, it can impact every water district that uses PVC piping, so you can look at the comments provided, and that's the next set of regulations that are being worked on.
Thank you.
And then for the water use efficiency update, so I spent my Halloween, listening to the commercial, industrial, and institutional landscape area management and land use classification data set. This is the part of the water use objective requirements. And, so the mixed use meter standards are here, and that'll impact our district because our CII don't have dedicated meters for the irrigation. So it would be considered mixed use, whatever they use to irrigate their landscape is the same as treated, so the regulations are there for the district to see. And they also updated the outdoor residential water use standard to allow us to update any of our land area management for the residential side based on the CII because they provided new data, which, we can now give more residential validation, so places that were marked as undeveloped lots or inaccurate parcel boundaries. We had a lot of boundaries where people may have had 8 or 9 acres and it only measured 1 acre as irrigable. This gives us the ability to add extra acres on pre-canopy. So we could do a residential validation for any of those avoided landscapes to increase the area that we get for irrigation in our land area management. I know we're already good till 2035, but this may make us good till 2040, so if we can, work on that, so as you can see, that gives us a second bite of the apple, and that gives us a chance to, increase that number. And then the numbers are attached on the charts. It shows, when the reports are due, although everything doesn't start actually until 2027. And the data set numbers are on that first chart with the 0.8 and 0.5. And if it's new landscape, they will accept 1. And there's a new classification system they're using for CII, and I attached that one. So now they've made it even more expansive, but they did add on things like the horse corrals and other stuff. Artificial non-functional turf is now banned for CII irrigation. And it will be on the water districts to provide a policy on this next year. So we're gonna have to come up with a policy on CII for non-functional turf.
No,
No,
turf
it's
that is
turf
just
that's
mowed.
just for ornamental.
If you only walk on it to mow it, then you don't need it.
Yep, so you can have like a sports thing or a park, but you just can't have landscape for pretty.
And CII.
Yeah, what's,
Industrial,
CII is
institutional,
commercial,
industrial.
institutional, industrial, so all of the shops, commercial stuff are schools and any other.
Institutional.
Golf
and-
courses.
Industrial.
It seems like it doesn't seem like the right terminology, artificial turf.
yeah,
No, it's a non-functional. So.
or turf
So it
itself.
says here artificial.
No, that is the classification for what's considered not irrigable, because they take, remember, this is.
Right, but I thought you just said that he confirmed artificial turf, the turf that you just walk
No,
on.
No.
non-functional is the word I'm confirming.
Yeah.
Artificial is not able to be watered.
Yeah, you don't
People
have to
water it
need
to
it
keep
to
it
be
cool,
You don't need to.
but they keep it cool so you can walk on it, and so that's not allowed anymore. You can't
Yeah.
use that as part of your acreage, because when they take the LiDAR pictures, they just look at the colors and they look at it and they see that it's green, and then they go back and look at it because it's warmer, they're gonna actually know that it's artificial, and so it doesn't qualify as part of your irrigable acreage.
In turf, they mean grass.
Grass.
Okay, weeds, grass, okay. Watered. Yes.
Well, we have artificial weeds.
Are you done?
Or,
So on this dedicated irrigation meter standard, we have orifices in place that regulates and we can just,
That's raw water,
Different kind of irrigation.
it's irrigation water.
It's not the same
but it's
thing.
not the same.
So are you talking about this is potable water use, not irrigation water use?
So they wanna have first for commercial,
The yes or no answer.
it's not a yes or no question. I'm sorry. I will answer the question, but let me answer it, please. For commercial, industrial, and institutional, they are going to require you put 2 meters in so that they can meter how much water is going through an irrigation only meter. So it's not raw water, it's treated water.
It's, that's what I'm saying, it's potable water coming through.
That is correct.
That's what they're talking about, having it metered separately than your regular water.
That is
Okay,
correct.
that's what it wasn't clear because irrigation, which is
We're the
our
only,
world irrigation, we have them metered because they're all under orifices or weirs or something.
typically in other agencies, they would refer to our irrigation water as raw water and irrigation water as a potable source that goes for parks, golf
Right.
courses, stuff like that.
Like what ALT has, that they spread water all over the potable water.
Correct.
Got it.
And I recommend moving forward, we kind of keep that language because it also protects us for our water use objective.
Michael, what, in the big picture percentage, how far have we moved the piece down the,
Quite a bit.
oh,
Yep.
what, and I remember back in the day, it was less than 1%, 3 years ago, where are we now?
I think we're at 8 or 9%. I'd have to go back and look. It's much more than it was before, and as of right now, we have no water conservation requirement until 2035. And then up after that, there's no calculation beyond that day, so it could be further than that as it is.
It seems like we're clawing about 1% or 2% a year. I think Tahoe was 20, and I thought that was a number that I thought was something we were trying to,
Yeah, maybe like 13 to 15%, something like that.
okay.
We could probably eke out 4% if we wanted to, and just claim it as residential irrigation and get it.
Director Seaman?
And what is termed horse corrals? A horse corral is normally a small pen that horses are
Yes.
housed in, not to be confused with the fields of pasture.
Correct, so basically what happens is the first thing they did was they took, the aerial survey, basically it's Google Earth of everybody, and then they map parcels on it, and they did this computer model based in an urban landscape, pretty much like LA, where it determines what's undeveloped, what's grass, what's pool. The computer learned that, and then they put that out everywhere, and as you go north of Sacramento, the model started having issues because all the places with tree canopy didn't count and areas like that.
So basically, you're getting credit for watering the dirt down to keep the dust down. And so it's a variance, so to speak,
So a
of,
horse corral is actually a pasture, or can be construed
Right.
as a pasture, not a corral.
you're talking about the state of California with very imprecise language. So we could argue
No,
many
no,
different.
I'm asking what this means.
So
What-
it means,
what-
it means
what's the
a
definition?
large space that is not irrigable, but may have horses on it. So what they do now is they also now take an infrared image, which is a LiDAR, so now they can see, all right, this is an undeveloped lot, this is actually dirt, and if you say this is a horse corral, you get water credit for the livestock.
That's what I'm trying to get to. Thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
Is there input from the fire side of using treated water because irrigation is not available for fire prevention? I mean, I see 2 completing
So-
state, not mandates, but
That's
Yeah.
done through a different system. That's done through water loss, which is SB 555. And we calculate that as part of our water audit. So treated water that's used to fight fires,
no, to prevent fires around the house.
So we tried to put that in initially, we put in risk factors and There may be some that allows for watering like landscapes next to highways so they don't have fire. I think the best thing we got in is trees, but they put in trees for urban and we'll just steal that because rural has trees as well. So that really is the only input is trees. They couldn't quantify how much water is used for fire mitigation. So everything was based on data sets and science, and they didn't have data sets and science. The same with evaporative cooling. The studies were done in Mojave and it doesn't come up here as well, and they wanted everybody to give the model and how much wattage was used and send that information to the assessor and come up. It's like, I guess, just ask people how many people use evaporative coolers. That's our best way to do it. So without data, they can't really quantify it. So it's not in our, in the water use objective.
Michael, in layman's terms, I think once we talked about this a few years ago, for erosion control, I have a couple thousand square feet of rosemary from the sky. It looks like maybe grass. Is that considered turf from that elevation, or is it ornamental landscape? And, or what about planter boxes and gardens? How do they, just coming from the layman asking, what about this? What about that? And when you did the calculations, I was using 4 times as much water, like 200 gallons a day. But when you calculated that in, I was kind of right in there. So just someone asking the question, how would that 2,000 square feet of rosemary for erosion control and planter boxes, what would that look like? What does that mean? Other than this graph you're trying to figure out.
Planter boxes are sitting on your house. It won't show up as, it'll be negated because it's on anything that's a house or any deck or anything like that. That won't be.
I mean, now planter boxes
Now,
in
if
the
it's
garden,
out in the garden, it'll show up as irrigable areas.
just the 4x8 square, they
Yes,
slice and
Yes.
dice that much?
Yes.
we can do another presentation on this.
Okay.
It's, there's so much nuance.
Okay.
Yep.
There's,
So
it's
many-
not, we're not even really.
We're not even touching the
close.
surface on it
Yeah.
yet.
So, I mean,
Okay.
I would say unless there's
Yeah.
public.
This was 10,000 foot. I mean, this is kind of an example of the pictures that it takes and then this was.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Down,
Mike, is this good for the Georgetown Flood customers?
It's good for us. So we've come up with, I mean, we've done a lot of things in it that help protect us. And as you said, we're gonna meet the water use objective until 2035, and we're probably one of the few agencies north of Sacramento that will. So, I mean, we've been ahead of this and we're doing good.
So we're basically trying to beat the regulations and
We are beating the regulation.
Yep, we're ahead of it.
they want to control everything, so.
Yeah, we've done enough that we are ahead of it and we have taken control of where we need to be, so.
All right, I'm all for it.
I think that's really-
Sheree?
Okay, I have a question on, there's regular treated water, say with EID down in El Dorado Hills, then they have wastewater treated that they use just for yard purposes. Are they counting that same, the
There
same
is-
pot or?
So that's a different.
We don't have any of that, so it's.
No, I know, but
Why,
it's part of-
can we not argue about something we don't
I was
have?
asking a question,
So in the water use objective, recycle gets
yeah.
a variance bonus if you use recycled.
You get a 10% extra bonus if you, on your gallons per capita per day. But we don't have any recycled water, so
Yeah,
Yeah,
possible.
yeah, okay.
we don't have any recycled water.
And then one thing to add is, with the regulations, I believe it's this week or next week will be the urban water management plan guidelines. That'll be attending that meeting. That's due in 2025. So
26th,
well, we start on it in 2025, so we can
July 1st, 2026.
start working on it for next year. So
Okay. I think that's it then.
that's it for me.
Okay, no more questions. Okay, B, receive a presentation regarding Georgetown Development Utility District water supply. Would that be you, Nicholas?
That would be me. While Elizabeth pulls up the presentation, I would just like to recognize that we have Rebecca Guo from El Dorado Water Agency on the Zoom as well. We were asked, or I was asked by Director Thornbrough to discuss Phasio water. at a previous meeting, I took it upon a little bit further and brought up what our entire water supply portfolio looks like so that both the board and the public can know a little bit more about what we have and what we use. And then at the very end, there is a couple slides about the Phasio water, and we also have a slide that's very timely for this discussion about the SMUD agreement. And so I'm gonna give a presentation about those two, and then Rebecca is here for any gaps that I miss in what I have to say. So you wanna go to the first slide there? The agenda is, we're gonna go over Stumpy Meadows, we're gonna go over the Onion Creek diversion and the project that we're working on there. We're gonna have a table that goes over our water rights, go look at our small holding reservoirs and how much they hold. And then you see there the Phasio water and the SMUD agreement. Stumpy Meadows Reservoir was built in 1962. Currently, it holds 21,206 acre feet. The water right is a senior water right, and the storage is a permitted right along the creek. And so that's a yearly storage right. We are able to keep that amount in the lake. You go to the next slide. This is the Onion Creek diversion. So this is a diversion that it's approximately 4,000 acre feet of water right. There is a potential for impoundment in the area. During and after the King Fire, there was firefighting and logging efforts that did damage to the diversion, to the canal, and to the ponds that held the water. We are currently exploring and working with our engineers on how we can recapture this supply of water and redivert it back into the back end of Stumpy. It's a little hard to see. I guess you can kind of see it. The blue line there. So go to the top picture and show the trees. Right up higher, a little, right in the trees to the right, down in the right there. So our diversion is somewhere right about where the mouse head is right there. And then you can see the dotted blue line. That is the canal as it comes down. The next picture is, I guess, turned 90 degrees. And so it continues along the ridge line, and then it comes in, and it's a little hard to see because of where the people's names are, but there's a pond. You just slide it over to the side. It should be fine.
Yeah, Frank's in the way.
So if you see where this pile of sticks and branches are right here, generally right below that was some small holding ponds that held the water until it was released into a natural draw and then back into Pilot Creek. So this water is currently flowing into the South Fork of the American River because it's right on the ridge line. And we had originally diverted it to Stumpy, and we are trying to fix that diversion at this time. So the next one is what we have as senior versus appropriative rights. And some of these have some different designations. So Pilot Creek, we have a senior right of 9,552. And we can have a maximum of 30 CFS of that. Mutton Canyon is also a senior water right. This is 18,805, my goodness, numbers. 1,850 with a CFS of 4. So right now we use Mutton Canyon to fulfill our environmental fish releases. We don't capture this water. This water is sent straight into the North Fork of the American River. Bacon Canyon is 2,165 acre feet. And then we have Unnamed Stream, which if you remember on your tour, we call that structure 1. And then Deep Canyon is structure 2. These are approximately 2,000 acre feet of additional senior water right. The appropriative rights or the permitted rights. So we have Stumpy Meadows, that's 20,000 acre feet. And we can utilize 100 CFS there. Onion Creek is the 4,000 acre feet was previously discussed, 30 CFS. Otter Creek, which is a little bit further down than the Unnamed Stream, is 120 acre feet. This is the one that gets these appropriative rights are curtailed between the months of July, August, and September. So We are not allowed to take water in those 3 months, but every other month we're able to take the water. So unnamed, these are unnamed, water draws. So that's our structures 3 through 7. We have approximately 1 CFS that goes through all of those. And then we have the Pilot Creek power right. I wanted to include that. That's the 50 CFS that we can generate power with for, the hydroelectric generator at the bottom of Stumpy Meadows. So Onion Creek and Otter Creek are currently in disrepair. Otter Creek, we have been working with our engineer on a cost to repair. Onion Creek, we have a state appropriation out that we were hoping to get some money to help fix that diversion. And there are some other funding mechanisms that we're looking at to help pay for the Onion Creek diversion. So going to the next one, we have,
I have a question.
yes, sir.
What's the relationship between the CFS and the acre feet?
It's the amount, the maximum amount that we can divert at one time. So the acre feet is, once you hit that number, you can't divert anymore.
Okay.
That's for like a yearly requirement.
Okay.
And the 30 CFS is, we are only allowed, if there's 35 CFS, then we have to only take 30. Does that make sense?
Yeah, not to exceed the
Correct.
acre feet. Got it. That is whatever rate.
Flow rate, yeah.
Low
It's
rate.
flow rate versus yearly amount, yeah. Okay, so these are our 3 small holding reservoirs. The top 2 pictures are Walton, and I did include the picture of the sedimentation just because it's pretty dramatic. So currently it's about 15 acre feet of holding capacity. After we dredge it, it will be about 25 acre feet. Greenwood Lake, which is the picture bottom left, that is 24.4 acre feet. And Sweetwater Lake is 9.6 acre feet. Moving into the Phasio agreement. If at any time, Rebecca, you wanna pop in on this next slide after I kind of go over it, I'll give you a second if I miss anything. Basically, the Phasio water agreement was named after Congressman Vic Phasio. It was a 40-year agreement that was developed between the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation and El Dorado County Water Agency. It was originally signed in 2019. There is 15,000 acre feet of water that is part of the CVP water right that can be utilized within El Dorado County to meet M&I needs. That's municipal and industrial needs. Basically, the water agency, so Rebecca's agency, holds the master contract, but written into the agreement is a delineation of 7,500 acre feet of water to go towards EID or El Dorado Water Irrigation District, and 7,500 acre feet that goes to Georgetown Divide Public Utility District. As long as we have a beneficial use for it, we would be able to utilize that water. The water has to be accessed through either Folsom Reservoir or an exchange upriver on the American River. So obviously we don't have any way to pull it out of Folsom because it's too far down from us. However, there is some thought that we may be able to utilize the exchange portion of that. Maybe if I could just, Rebecca, do you want to add any color to what I just said?
No, I mean, I think that you covered most of it, 'cause I know we went over the slide together earlier, but yes, we do hold the contract for the 15,000 acre feet, and for Georgetown to use it, we would have to figure out how some exchange could happen upstream, but look forward to working with you guys with it.
Yeah, so we've been exploring some ideas, Rebecca and I, and even Jim over at EID, Mr. General Manager Abercrombie. We've been working on how to utilize this water. We don't want it to continue to just kind of flow to wherever it goes into the abyss of nothingness. So this is something that is one of my top priorities that I'm working on, trying to utilize this water. So yes, sir.
I'd like to ask Rebecca a question.
Please.
Hi, Rebecca. This is Mike Thornborough. I'd like to know what happened with that. Ken was working on some kind of a water bank thing that was going to fall into, that we can get paid for. Whatever happened to that? You familiar with that?
Yes, I am. Hi, good to see you again. It's been a couple months now. But yes, so the Sacramento Regional Water Bank is what you're referring to. And so that's something that Regional Water Authority, it would occur downstream of Folsom, and they're still in the early processes of developing it. Should it become a federally recognized groundwater bank, this is a federal contract water, the Fazio water is, so I think that would allow us a little bit more flexibility related to that, but that project is still, I mean, I don't know how far away, but it's not coming in the next few years probably. So, but we are still looking into that and considering it. But currently our contract does need to be beneficially used in the county. So,
Okay. All right, thanks, Rebecca.
Did anybody else want to ask you, okay, about Fazio?
Is any of the Fazio water available for transfer?
Not technically the way it sits right now. That's why we would have to come up with some sort of a transfer partner.
Okay.
Yeah, an exchange partner, excuse me, not transfer. It's a different, we're exploring how we can make that
All
work.
right, so those answers don't exist yet.
Not yet. That's what me and Rebecca have been working on pretty closely. Okay, I'll open it up maybe if the public, I know this is kind of a heavy subject, so if you'll allow the
Yes, sir.
public, maybe if they have any questions about this now, or I can continue at the end.
Go ahead, Steve.
So this has been in effect since 2019.
That is correct.
And we still have the option to draw from down below, Cool, at the, between the, Placer County water, they have that little building down there where they get their water going up, and we could bring water up to our side to Cool. And I don't know, build a treatment plant or ship it up there.
The financial viability of that project at the present time is not tenable for the
That's one
district.
source, right?
That would be a source. We could utilize that facility. We would still owe, Placer County Water Agency money for the construction of that. So the district is still on the hook for about $3 million of the construction of that building and the pump site. We would then have to build a transfer over to the other side of the river, so a pipe underneath the river. We would have to build a pump station, and then if you're pumping 1 acre feet of water to the Cool or the Sweetwater treatment plant, it's about $250 per acre foot that we would have to pipe just for pumping costs. So that's where the kind of untenableness of the project comes. It just would cost too much money to move the water.
Is that another potential source of, is there an amount of water we're looking at that we are sending down that should be ours to be used? And is that another, can we segregate that away and actually get that to be our water that we are now transferring down for income?
That is the agreement that me and Rebecca are trying to work on. It's a legal, there's a bunch of legal hurdles we have to jump through. So what we're trying to do is clear those legal hurdles before we present it to you, because it's a lot of moving pieces, and we would need to make sure that we keep the Bureau happy and everybody else who is involved in this agreement, because it's not just the two of us that are involved in this agreement. There's other water districts outside of the county that are involved in this as well, and so it's just a lot of moving pieces right now.
So the answer is yes, but that is a lot of red tape we have to go through to get to that point.
You said it perfectly, yes.
There we go.
So it's taken 5 years to do the environmental report, or is that just?
No.
Because I've asked periodically the last 5 years what they're doing with this water. But now it says it was submitted.
You're reading the next slide as part of the same argument. It's
Well,
different.
there's a procedure to get
So
the water.
It's a completely different project. The next slide is completely different from this one.
Okay, so then I guess I will ask Rebecca, why is it in 5 years through 4 different general managers? Is EID doing anything
No, the idea does not utilize their water either.
to sell? I mean,
No. They don't utilize the water.
okay, but I was asking her why the county water hasn't done anything before this.
specifically for the Fazio, right? So we are trying to work on agreements with EID and Georgetown Divide to be able to use this. As Nick mentioned, right, it is complicated to physically get the water up to Georgetown Divide. So there is a lot of the legal aspects of it that we're trying to work through in policies. And we'll continue to work with EID to hopefully use it. It is a 40-year contract term, so we do want to be sure to use it sooner than later.
Okay, but my question was, why 5 years later, is it just starting something to do with it because it's been there for 5 years at the county water? Because EID or GPED hasn't pushed it, and I'm talking about selling this water, transfers.
Oh,
not
so
to
we
bring it
can't,
up.
yeah, currently as the contract is written, this cannot be transferred. The
Okay.
water must be used for beneficial use within the county, so El Dorado County's boundaries. That doesn't mean that other water that the purveyors hold could not be transferred, and this water is used here, but this water cannot be.
So it has to be used in our county.
That's
Correct.
the
is
legal,
currently
the legal part is we're trying to clear.
Okay.
Well, my understanding from pursuing this for years, that it has to go through a GPEC facility.
No, a federal facility. It has to be it's an exchange through a federal facility.
No, we're talking about, if we did, to use it for a water transfer, it has to go through,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
through our facility.
So there's the thing we're trying to work on is how do we take water that is in Stumpy and do a paper transfer of the physical drops of water, where we use the physical drops of our water here, but the paper is the Phasio paper, and then our paper, and I gotta be really careful what I say in open session. This is something we're trying really hard to work on, but it's just not easy. We have to figure out how we can take utilizing this water within our county, like as is stated, and then utilizing our senior water right as a potential transfer. Is that answering your question?
We'll leave it at that.
We're working really hard on this. I promise you that this is something that
All right. Well, I think-
since I started, I think, and Rebecca started right after I started, and I think we've had, I don't know, 15 to 20 discussions about this, and it's definitely something that is, high on my radar.
Well, I've been bringing this up for years since I first heard about it.
Yeah, no, and as soon as I started here, I was like, well, this is, why are we not utilizing this, and how do we utilize this? And then, kind of some of the roadblocks, we jumped over a few of them, Rebecca and myself, and we're just trying to get through all of them before we can figure this out. So go to the next slide, if you can please, go one more slide. And again, this is it, I'll turn it over to you at the end again, Rebecca. So, basically, there's a SMUD agreement that is in place, was originally agreed to in 1957. There's 4 parties to this agreement: El Dorado County Water Agency, EID, and Georgetown Divide. So there is approximately a 40,000 acre foot water storage right that is being utilized in SMUD's Upper American River project facilities. So some of the facilities, for example, are Loon Lake, Union Valley. There's some of their other facilities. They have this White Rock facility now. They have, oh my gosh, what is it called? The other one, that's right there. I'm sorry, what's the bridge called on the 193? Chili Bar. Sorry. And so those are the diversion points that they can be utilized. This is what it was referred to by one of the members of the public, is there is an EIR that is out for a 55-day review to be able to utilize this water inside El Dorado County and divert it here for a beneficial use. What the EIR is to develop this under a 1927 right. So it's not quite a pre-14 right, but it's a higher water right than some other water rights. So there's a few periodic dates within the system that get a little higher priority, as opposed to the senior pre-14, and there's 27, I think 57 and 74 are the big ones in there. They become more junior, but this is a senior junior right, if you want to say it that way. So basically what the EIR is the CEQA documents that will allow the usage of these facilities to be able to move this water, again, for a beneficial use within the county. And so if I could just turn it back over to you, Rebecca, if I missed anything one more time.
No, I mean, I'm sure there will be questions by your board and happy to address them.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have a copy of that EIR?
I've been reviewing it, yes.
Sorry.
Okay,
Would you like a copy of it to look at?
sure.
I will email it to you. It's on their website.
Director Stovall, do you have a question?
So if water is stored in SMUD, we can't use it.
We don't have access to any of the water sources. They're all below our
Yeah.
system. It's just kind of the same idea as the Phaseo water. It's
Same
how do
thing as
we,
Phaseo.
how do we transfer this water? How do we sell this water? How do we, what do we do with it? How do we, exchange it with somebody else so that we can share the beneficial use?
So
within the
exchange
county?
is the key concept.
Exchange is also the key concept here, yes.
Yeah, and for this particular water right, just so you know, we've worked a lot with the county planning department who approves all of the development. And they're looking at the general plan, and we use that information to be able to project out what the future demand will be. So this water isn't necessarily something that we need today, right? We have enough water to meet our current demands. And even with urban water management plans, right, projecting out 20 years, pretty good. But when we look at 70 years out, kind of when the general plan is more realized, that then we have about a 70,000 acre foot gap in demand versus supply versus demand. And so this will help meet a portion of it. So really this is for that future water use and need.
Director Saunders?
Do we still have a 10,000 acre feet emergency, ability use? I know we don't have the ability to use it, but is that still in the contract?
I'm not familiar with that. For Georgetown divide?
Yeah, it's between Georgetown and EID.
I think it's a division of the 40,000 into each of the parties has when it was originally developed, I believe that there was a portion that was each entity had 10,000 acre feet of storage ability.
I believe that might have been through one of the other temporary agreements, but I don't believe that the SMUD agreement, the 2005, the prevailing one, makes that distinction between EID and Georgetown. I think it leaves it open.
Director Seaman?
So you're looking at this being as, potential housing starts for the county, in the long term, to change the, so when you change the general plan, that you're gonna have different areas that are gonna have more access to building. 'Cause you
Yeah,
have to
and-
have water to be able to justify and get through the state to allow you to urbanize certain rural areas.
Actually, for most of, when working with the county, right, their general plan has different land use designations, and most of the areas that we saw, or with the ag planning division and agricultural commissioner, is that a lot of it is rural ag development. And there's some up in kind of closer to your area, but a lot of it more in South County area. And so most of the water is to meet kind of that lack of ag reliable water, right? Right now, if they're not supplied by a purveyor, it is groundwater, which fractured rock aquifers here aren't that reliable, especially if there is more ag development.
And what is what day are we on the 55-day review?
The review is the November, what's the
Through-
November 19th?
You have through December 9th, so 32 still days.
Yeah.
If staff could switch to mobile signals, that would help our usage.
Rebecca, can you just say when the date of the final ERAR review process is? I know that the date of the
Yeah,
public hearing.
December
is-
9th. December 9th is when the public,
2 days.
December.
Oh, December 9th.
Yeah,
But where is it on their website?
It's on their website, yeah.
Okay.
And then the public hearing is at the county, the 19th. Yeah.
the 20th, I believe. Sorry, I'm
Wow.
pulling that up.
I can get it.
I
It's on my
will-
phone, hang on.
Yep, I'll put
Okay.
the link to our document
November. or
It's on the
Website.
20th at 5 o'clock at the county building at Fairlane.
For the board of supervisors,
Correct, 3:30 Fairlane,
and that's November.
20th.
Just decent.
November? or
November 20th is the
November.
public hearing.
Oh,
Oh, no, okay.
December 9th is when the comments are due.
okay.
Wow, Director Stovall.
I see on our revenue statements that we get revenue from SMUD.
Yeah, so we get
Is this related to that? at all?
it is related to the 25.
What's the relationship?
Basically, they pay us and they pay the county a certain amount of money for the right to take the water out of the county. And it's kind of a convoluted system. Basically, they started moving this power and this water, and these 4 entities complained and said, you're taking water as a I'm not asking that, so just.
Frank, do you hear us?
He does.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna go back into that. We didn't talk about anything while that was done. I'm really sorry. Can you ask your question? Oh, the SMUD.
My question is, there's 2 parts to it. One is that we're receiving money from SMUD for their use for this water.
Correct.
Second part is how is the value of that
I
water
can't read on the.
determined? Cause I look at
That's a
the
good
value
question.
of water and throughout the year, it varies. Throughout the years. it
So
varies.
they're not paying us for the use of the water. They're paying us a power, it's like a power stipend for the power that they generate. So it's not the use of the water, it's the
So-
power that they generate.
Okay, so they're not buying, okay, that.
They're not selling the water. They actually don't sell this water to anybody. They
use it.
they just run it through their generators and
Okay.
it goes into the system.
All right.
I have a question that could parlay into, and this may be one, I'm sure it will be one you could answer, Director Saunders, and may lead into your.
Ask it.
Once upon a time, I heard that, Loon Lake, and a transfer of water, you'll catch on a pipe or some means of, now is
No,
this is different?
there is no use of Loon Lake at all by the district anymore. There is no option for that.
So there was, if you look at the 2000 Castle study or the 2012, there was all of the economic feasibilities to access Loon Lake and the ability to do that and the cost prohibitiveness of it, so.
So we don't have access, I mean, the way the flume was built, it was literally built on the side of like a sheer cliff. And it's not, the cost of it and the safety of it, it's just so not worth it,
Okay,
unfortunately.
so if that didn't apply, this would be applicable here, right, what we're talking about, as far as?
Well, I mean, that was part of the agreement, so I guess we get 5/49 of the power is what our portion is.
Okay, all right, thank you.
That was put into the agreement in 1950, whatever it was, but yeah, I mean,
All right,
that was the reason there is no real access to Loon Lake without extreme engineering, and that's why we have it as Stumpy is pretty much our sole source.
okay, I guess I missed the memo last year, whenever that was. Go ahead, you were next to ask the question, Director Saunders. You had your
I
hand
was
up.
just gonna tell them of the, I believe the Loon Lake and some of the in the first Castle study has all of the, feasibilities of how much it would cost to try and do that, and some of that is in that study, so I'll share some of that info with you and the agreement.
So this EIR is supposed to be on whose website?
EDWA, El Dorado Water Agency.
Now, how are these senior and junior rights, how can they be threatened?
Oh, well, they can
Over
be
time.
legislation. The state's trying to blow them all up. The legislature, the Southern California arm of the legislature is trying to, basically take and start over with all the water rights and ultimately, any of the first in rights would be gone.
So it's a legislative controlled issue.
Every 3 to 4 years, I bring the bills that we have to fight against, so.
Thank you.
If you can't find it on the website, I can send you.
Who brings it?
Oh, the bills that we go through
I
every
need
3 to
to
4
get-
years, I bring up the bills that we're advocating against that threaten the water right.
There was 4 bills last year and 3 of them were killed. One of them was heavily modified and it did not retain its intended purpose. So it passed, but didn't do any damage to the water right system.
So who is trying to get our water? But this is
Well, it's-
Southern
it's-
California?
It's more than just Southern California, but I mean, obviously because they have much more junior water rights, they are a major driving force in it. But there's other agencies, I mean, certain parts of Sacramento, certain parts of the Central Valley. It all just depends on when certain parts of the state started to become in existence, because we can trace our water rights back to the 1850s, obviously with the mining that we have here. And so that's how we are able to retain senior water rights. Now there's people who are just starting to use water and they don't have water rights. So if an agent, like, I'll give you an example of where I used to work. I used to work at Mojave. They came into existence in 1960. All of their water rights were junior appropriative water rights because of when they were basically brought into existence. And they couldn't trace their water rights back any further.
Okay. Director Stoll?
Yeah, one other question, kind of going back to the beginning of the presentation. Looking at all these small holding reservoirs, how many days of restricted use of availability of treated water are we looking at? If some repair has to go into the tunnel.
Hot day or cold day? Summer or winter?
Would tunnel, probably winter, because if you're working inside a tunnel, it's
Between 3 to 5 days
3 to 5 days, jeez.
with the Walton the way it is,
Yeah.
probably the lower amount.
40% of the lake. Okay, there's no more.
I think Director Saunders, did you have your?
Yeah, I mean, it was more work. I didn't wanna add it in here, but I guess the only other, thank you for the presentation. It's a good, overview of all of our, surface water, and holding water stuff. And I guess was gonna add, the only thing we could add for our, storage would be to add the tank situation, and that would be the only.
Yeah, I mean, they're numerous, so there's 11 tanks, you know, I would say most of them are between 50 and 100,000 gallons. We have one that's 500,000 gallons, and then we're trying to build a new one that's between 1 and 2 million gallons.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go to public comment. Sheree.
Okay, it was under my understanding that the Georgetown Water Company actually had the access, I mean, not access, but owned Loon Lake. But when they built Stumpy, they gave that up. to
Sold
have
it.
Stumpy built.
They sold it so they could build Stumpy.
Right. So, because they couldn't access it, pretty much. So in this, chart, you said something the appropriate to rights,
Correct.
Stumpy, that you can't use it 3 months out of the year,
No, Stumpy
is an exception to that,
is a permitted right.
okay.
So it's an appropriative permitted, right? There's a whole bunch of different ones. We can't keep water in those months. So say water comes into the back of Stumpy
Yeah,
in July, August, and September, we have to be able to release that water out and then it goes through our diversion dam. So, at that time of year, there's not a lot of flow because obviously it's more warm, all the snowpack is gone, there's not a lot of rain. So if we get 5 CFS of flow on the back end of Stumpy, we have to allow 5 CFS of flow to go through the diversion dam.
oh, so we have a pipe that comes from the bottom of the lake that will.
So there's if you go to the dam, I'm sure you've been to the dam. If you go, Steve, come on,
In my whole
take
life,
her to the
I've
dam.
seen his pictures.
If you were basically to stand in the middle of the dam and you were to look into Stumpy, about 175 feet into the lake is a pipe. There's actually a valve underneath there. and the water runs out, that's where the water would go out through into Pilot Creek. And so that's where we release water, we release it through that. Where if we release water through the hydroelectric, that's where the hydroelectric will.
And then that does not go through our ditches.
Let me finish, because it's a more complicated system than that.
Okay.
From there, it flows through Pilot Creek for about 1.5 miles. It just flows to the natural creek. And then we have a diversion dam, which is basically like a big, it's just like a door that kind of opens and closes like this. And we divert into the canal, and then the canal goes around, goes off to the right-hand side of Pilot Creek, and then it goes back underneath Pilot Creek and it starts the canal up there. So we have to release that, whatever comes in the backside of Stumpy through the diversion dam to continue down Pilot Creek. That's what the appropriate nature of
And the
it
3
is.
months are what?
July, August, and September.
July, okay. And then on the right, the thing you put White Rock Powerhouse.
Yes.
Is that different than Chili Bar?
What, it's above Chili Bar.
Above?
So if
I've
you,
never heard of it.
it's just a little pipe that comes, so you've seen Chili Bar?
Yeah.
If you look up from Chili Bar,
There's a dam.
well, no, the dam, if you look up in the canyon,
Yeah.
there's a box, like a house on the top, that's White Rock. So it's right above Chili Bar.
As you're.
It's just slightly upstream of the dam, yes.
Oh, let's see, okay. All right, didn't know that they had that. And they're generating water or electricity through that also, or just at Chili Bar? It's not,
Full.
okay.
Yeah, SMUD just bought Chili Bar and White Rock from
PG&E.
PG&E
Yeah,
like
right.
in 2022 or 21 or something like that.
All right, okay. ahead.
The tour we took, now I could visualize everything you guys were talking about. It was great. A little late, but thank you.
Okay,
Steve?
that's it.
Yeah, with all the building going on off of Highway 50 Folsom, they're building up right to the El Dorado line. And you know they're gonna cross over and come into El Dorado County. Can we divert some of our rights for the SMUD, that SMUD thing you?
That's what we're trying to work on. That's exactly what we're trying to do.
Oh, let's do it.
Well, all right, Steve, I'm gonna get you on it, okay? You come with me and you can go, help me, just get it taken care of.
Just gotta get it done.
That's what. I'll tell you, if you looked at some of the dates, for the SMUD agreement, 2005, and they just now have their EIR going, so it takes a while to get some of this going, and I'm trying, I'm doing the best I can, I
Okay,
really am.
need help?
Yes,
Yeah, be on a committee.
come on up, Steve. I'll come get you, we'll go down and, talk to some folks.
Okay. I'll now close this for public comment. And now, is there some kind of motion or what are we doing here? Just receiving the report?
Just,
Yeah, it was just a report for you guys to receive.
Okay. Thank you for that report. Letter C, consider appointment and authorization of the Associated California Water Association of Agencies, Aqua voting rep.
So this is, at the December conference, there is a few bylaw changes that Aqua has proposed to its membership. And while at the conference, they are requiring one person who is attending to be a voting member. It is typically an elected official. Then there is typically an alternate, and then I would be considered the alternate as a staff member. So we do have 2 board members that are attending this meeting, both Director Saunders and Director McDonald. It would be at this time that one of those 2 members be nominated to be the voting representative to push the button for whether they agree with the bylaws or not. And the bylaws, the changes to the bylaws are included in the packet. I'm gonna go over those if you don't mind.
Open up to board comment or question?
The changes seem to be directed mostly at the vice president or the vice chair.
Yeah. It's just it's formality stuff.
And change the language around from the code of conduct.
The code of conduct became a big deal in the last couple. There was some nasty memes that were sent around that shouldn't have been sent around, and so that was a big portion of this.
By the vice chair, by chance?
No, it was actually by an attorney who was trying to send something as a private message, and he sent it as a direct message to a full committee, and it was a bit of a kerfuffle. Frank is giving the thumbs up. I'll tell you who it was later, Frank. You can give him a hard time here.
I think I probably already know.
You probably do. He was an attorney here for a while.
Are we looking for a new attorney?
No, he's still doing, no, he's not an attorney with Aqua. He is an attorney, outside of council for like a Frank.
Wasn't me. Wasn't me, for the record.
We did have an issue at a conference where, Palestinian offended the Israeli ambassador to the.
Anyway, we don't need to have
US,
direct information
Or the
on that.
mail.
Yeah, so, all we need is somebody, either Director Saunders, Director McDonald, or another director, if they plan to attend the conference, to be a voting member. We would need a voting member, an alternate, and then, by rule, I would become the alternate to the alternate, so I wouldn't need to be voted in, just a board member.
And that's just for the specific elections that are happening at this specific conference?
Yeah, yes, correct.
So I will be present and I will be able to vote on this.
Should you make the motion or not?
I could make the motion.
Wait, say that again.
I said I will be present, so I'm able to,
Present.
President.
vote,
Oh, okay.
to vote,
I thought you
to
said
be,
president.
to be the voting
I understand what you're
nomination
saying.
for that if, Mitch is gonna do the JPIA one.
Well, this will be on Wednesday, so it'll be after the JPIA conference.
Yeah. So did you throw your hat in the ring?
Yeah, I threw my hat in the ring.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Well, we'd have to have an alternate.
The whole motion has to be.
Need the alternate.
Saunders is
If
the
you're
first
available for the
one,
alternate.
you are the alternate,
I'm already,
And he's
I can be the
already
voting
on
member
it.
without.
All we need is
on
a motion. All we need is a motion for the primary and the alternate, a first and a second, and we can have a vote on that. That's all we need.
So the full motion is, Director Saunders as the voting member and Director McDonald as the alternate.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, we'll get that paperwork sent in.
Letter D, discussion regarding cost of service and water and waste rate analysis. Continued board discussion and request of director. Director.
Just before,
Let's go.
just before you get started, Director Thornborough, if you wouldn't mind me, I just want to let everybody know that everybody should have received their notice and the mailer. We sent those out on last Monday. Most people, we were getting notices that they were receiving Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Everybody should have it. We did make a couple of the changes that were at the last meeting. But it was a pretty successful mailing. We worked with a new company, so I just want to give them a shout out. It's down in Placerville, and we may actually consider them for our billing system in the future.
Oh, okay. I wanted to, the reason I asked for this to be put on there is that I'm not understanding the process, because there's been a lot of things said by various directors at our meetings. And I wanted to clarify what the process is as far as to establish the rates. It's my understanding that we're gonna do this on December 12th at Winter School Community Church. And that's when we're going to see how many protests come in, and then we were going to set what the rates were. So are we automatically going with the suggested rates? There's been talk. You've made comments yourself, Bob, and it's like, so are we going to make a decision that we're gonna be imposing rates other than what's been recommended? If we are, what's that gonna be based on? When are we gonna do it? I mean, we're gonna do it. It seems kind of, if that's a possibility, we should be working on that before December 12th.
I have a question. Is discussing what we're gonna do with the rates available, we discussed today, right? We're discussing the rate survey, not discussing as a board
Yeah,
what we will do
that's what it says here.
in adopting the survey. I don't think we can talk about what you want to talk about.
That's what the agenda item was about, is to discuss it,
This will be a discussion only, it says here.
right, that's kind of what we're doing.
You don't have to,
Yeah,
you're not making any decisions. today.
Yeah, you
It's
can you can discuss things you feel like you need to discuss to prepare yourself for that public hearing. What you can't do is make a decision today on that. That's what that public hearing is for.
Okay.
Right.
So if I can add
And actually I would just caution you in the sense of the whole point of having the public hearing is to get the public's feedback at that hearing. And that's why you set the rate after the closure of the hearing. So I'm not saying you can't prime the pump and have these discussions. I'm just saying keep in mind that the whole purpose of the 218 was to set the rates after you heard from the public at the public hearing. So whatever you discuss today, I think should be held loosely and tentatively with the view to the fact that that's why we have that public hearing, to get live feedback from the public. Because there may not be a majority protest, but based on the feedback you're getting from the public, it may influence your final decision. So it's okay to be prudent to prime the pump, but again, hold that loosely with a view towards the public hearing as the final decision.
It's not my intention to set rates. What I wanna know, and what the purpose of this agenda item is I wanna understand what the process is gonna be. Are we going to, the way, from what I understand, like I said, from what I understand, all the discussion we've had at the meetings, is that, we're gonna go to the December 12th, and then if it survives the protest, then we're gonna decide what rates we're gonna impose.
So generally, you are correct. That is what is the plan. Now, a couple of the pieces that are still yet to be determined, you could set the rate as it's set in the study and say, we are adopting the 15, 10, 10, 10. And then ultimately, you can set the rates lower than that. So you can adopt the rate setting that's listed in the public hearing notice. And then if we develop additional revenue sources in the time between now and December 12th, that could change those numbers. You can see multiple different scenarios on the screen that would be acceptable as well. And then one of those could be motioned. So say an additional revenue source of a couple $1 million were to come in. We could then reassess what the rates are going to be, and we would have multiple scenarios that you could adopt. So you could adopt the rate study and say, okay, well, we want to have these overarching limits just in case, but we don't feel like we need to go that high, so we're going to set the rates at this level, and we're going to have all those numbers for you at that meeting.
What are those numbers gonna be based on?
A percentage, so that it'll still have to be based on a percentage. So say we, instead of going 15, 10, 10, 10, we go 12, 12, 12, 10, 10, 10, or 8, 10, 10, 10, or 8 across the board, 8 for 5 years. So we can have a various number of scenarios that you might think are okay, but what I would recommend is you adopt the rate study the way it is, and then you set the rates within that parameter after the fact.
And you only set it year by year, by the way.
There we go. That's what I wanted to hear.
So let me try to
Not the
answer.
whole 5 years.
Let me try to answer Director Thurmbrell's question the most direct way I can. We will hold the public hearing, get all public comment, count all the protests, determine whether or not a majority protest exists or not. If it doesn't exist, if there's not a majority protest, then the district has the option, because if you get a majority protest, everything stops, right? The record stops. If you don't get a majority protest, the hearing closes, and then the board will have the opportunity to adopt the actual 5-year study and schedule, and then it will also have the opportunity right after that to set the rate for the first year only. That doesn't exceed that first year on the rate study you just adopted. So that's the 3 things in order.
Oh, it's 6 months.
It's not, it's January to January. They are done based on the calendar year because of when it's hitting. So it's a 1-year basis.
Frank?
You can set it at 6 months, and then you can revisit it in 6 months if you want to go with a lower number. But the way the study is written right now, it's 5 years, and you can set whatever, you can set monthly increases, you can set however you would like. But if you set the first one the way it's set up now, it would be a year. If there's a motion or a decision that they want to do a 6 month to see in July where we're at, then you can do it that way. What Frank was trying to explain, and I'm sorry, Frank, if I cut you off. You are setting the top end by the first part, what you can go up to, which is you're not beholden to that number, you're beholden to what you actually set the rates at.
So at that meeting, do we have to decide whether we wanna take a look back at 6 months or a year? Is
You
that
can-
what the minimum we should be doing?
You can make that decision on that meeting. if
Cause you
like.
might get a grant or some funding in 2 weeks later, and then you have to wait a year.
You can change the rates any day you want. As long as you don't go over what the Prop 218 notice says, you could change the rates to go lower.
At any time,
You can change the rates.
but what's,
There's two elements of 218. There's a procedural 218 and the substantive 218. Procedurally, everything Nick said is true. Substantively, as you make those modifications, you need to check in with your rate consultant to make sure that as you modify and modulate the numbers, that it still makes sense in terms of proportionality for cost of service. So I just need to say that. So you have that discretion, but you need to do the discretion. You need to exercise that discretion in consult with Sanjay.
Richard Seaman?
The only problem is we get different numbers from Sanjay from meeting to meeting. I mean, everything's like a bit, freaking.
I
moving
can't
around.
speak.
And it's been, you know, that's my disgust with this whole deal with him is, you know, up until everything changed on October 3rd again. And that's what has been an ongoing problem. So I guess at this point, we're still at kind of his discretion on how he crunches his numbers. Sorry. I'm done.
Back to what, the reason I got this here is you hit the nail on the head. You said on the 12th, we're gonna have all these options, like we go 14%, stuff like that. Okay,
We
that's
should do
my
that now.
point, is why are we waiting until the 12th? Those numbers have to be based on something that would make them viable. Why is this happening on the 12th?
Because,
Well, that should be happening ahead of time.
but you don't know if it's gonna get a majority protest. So all you're doing is adopting the rate study analysis of where rates should be. Hold on, let me finish, hold on. I know we're missing each other somewhere, and I'm trying to clear up where we're missing each other.
Can I just hold on? I need to interject here. The other thing is, you can continue the hearing, or you can say, listen, we don't have after you get through the hearing and it closes, you don't have to set it right then and there. I mean, you can say, listen, I need more data, I need this, and you can push it out a little bit to do whatever analysis you need to do if that comes up. So I don't want you to feel like you have to like sign on the bottom line on the 12th.
Our target date for the rates to be implemented is January 1st. That's our target date. Now, I don't see a problem if we end up, for whatever reason, having to wait and start on February 1st, but to go the calendar route would be, in my opinion, the best way to do it. I don't understand why we can't go with the assumption that it's gonna pass and be prepared ahead of time. That's what I don't understand.
I'm not suggesting you can't. I said you can prime the pump and have
Well,
it.
that's why I tried to initiate this when I came in with my scenario, and I says, hey, you know, I crunched some numbers, I look at it like this, and then there wasn't any, you know, well, initially everybody was on board with it, and then all of a sudden that changed. But my point is, we should be prepared to be able to offer our customers the lowest needed rate, okay? And so there hasn't been any discussion that I have seen other than what I tried to initiate to say, well, yeah, you know, we could do this or we could do that. And to have the rates, and then the only answer I got out of the whole thing was, oh, well, our notice is gonna give a not to exceed amount.
Well, so the lowest rate, that's what the rate study is. It is, they're, if you want like the insider baseball of this, you really shouldn't adopt a lower rate. I understand you don't want to go up to that level. And I understand why. You don't want to be punitive to your customers. What is being stated in that rate study is what needs to be given to provide the services that we provide. Now, hold on, let me.
I understand all that, Nick, I understand all that.
Okay,
My
Direct-
thing is that we should be analyzing this, okay, case in point. When you told me recently that the inflation rate per year was set at, per this rate study, 4.8. Is that what it was, 4 point something?
3.8.
3.8.
Oh, you said 3.8?
Yes. And you wanted to move it to 3.
Well, 3.8 was what it averaged out to for the last 5 years, was 3.8. And then when I had a conversation with Nick recently, he said it was 4 point something. I thought he said 4.8.
Well, can I,
Director Seaver.
cause what's the problem is, it's like Sanjay should have been here today. And so we could have had him crunch numbers and see different scenarios of how it would work to give us a feeling of where we can, you know, what we could go to. We tried to do this before with him, he balked, oh, it's gonna cost you more money. So, I mean, this is the problem we have, is that I don't wanna be sitting there with this adjustments that I'm not sure. He hasn't shown me that he has these numbers all laid out and it's perfect, where he can say, okay, let's take it at 5% and show the scenario for 1 year or that 6 months or whatever. I mean, that's kind of the stuff we're trying to, I guess, get to today, to look at it and to be understanding, you know, what kind of numbers are we looking at? And we've never had that. We've never had that with him.
So I can just, in defense of,
Don't defend him.
in defense of Sanjay, we did invite him today. He had a doctor's appointment. And unfortunately, that is, you know, he,
Contractors.
I mean, that's not fair I feel like that's not fair. I would be happy to
I
invite him.
changed my life to accommodate this for $400 a month. At 100 and some thousand, he should be able to accommodate this district. We are important and we should be treated as an important customer to him, and that's not what I feel.
So he offered to meet with you individually to go over these numbers.
We need to be
I'd
here.
be happy to invite him to a special meeting where you guys can sit here and go through all the different scenarios. I'd be happy to reach out to him directly after this and we can set up a special meeting sometime and continue the discussion.
I just want
We
to.
have a hand up there of importance.
Oh, sure.
Well, I'm not that important, but I was gonna say I think as probably if that's the desire of the board, I would recommend that we have that discussion that Nick just suggested. We're probably not going to figure out the numbers today. We need to do them in concert and consultation with Sanjay. And I don't think we should, we have a lot of time between now and the 12th. And I just think we need to do that. And, you know, the COSA is based on revenue and expenditure assumptions. And those assumptions can change as we get real data live. And there may be some changes in the next few weeks or month in terms of revenue assumptions. And so I think those could be looked at. So I mean, I guess my thing is we could discuss it today at length and maybe not get where we need to get just because we need Sanjay here. So maybe if one option for today, if the board wants to, is give direction to Nick to work with Sanjay to set up an appropriate meeting where the kind of conversation that I know at least Director Thurmborough and Director Seaman want to have in terms of those options, that can happen.
Frank?
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and I thought up to this point, without any expectations of immediate extra revenue, that where we've been in the past, based on the numbers inputted by the CPI, for instance, and the staff, as far as the cost of service, that we already agreed upon without any other variables or changes in the expected revenue. Is that ship not sailed in reality unless something changes between now and then? Or are you saying now we got another yet fourth bite of the apple? I thought this shit passed, but
We can, there's still,
There's some pending things there are some pending things.
so what?
there's some pending things that could change the way this is calculated.
I understand, but we can't do it if they're not pending.
That's why
Yeah.
yeah, those are around the corner.
All right.
Here's the bottom line, that I just don't seem to be able to get people to understand. Is that if you run the numbers, like I did with the proposed rates, we will be collecting millions of dollars more for CIP in this 5 years than what was stated in all the presentations of that 4.9 million. That 4.9 million is what the figures are supposed to be reflecting to put into CIP over that 5 year period. You just run the numbers out, the ones that they are, and it's millions of dollars. After the end of 5 years, it's a few $1 million more than the 4.9.
Don't forget, there's more than the 4.9 that is being calculated in this. Reserve amounts, reserve targets, there's a lot of moving pieces that are not the 4.9 million that are also included in the rates. So can I please invite Sanjay here so he can run these different?
Well, and that's
scenarios?
what I'm suggesting is that we
yeah.
need, to me, I think we need to have a meeting between now and December to iron this out.
I would be happy to, and maybe, I don't mean I'll let you in 1 second. I know that Director Seaman has probably the toughest schedule. Is there a day of the week that would be best for you that I could work on this with him?
Monday,
Mondays, then can we do like Monday in the morning, like 9, 10 o'clock?
Monday.
I mean, is that any time on Monday is what you're saying? Okay.
Well, it's coming Mondays, better.
So in
I
addition,
can't do it this.
so in addition to the pending things that might be going on, we're gonna go over this again.
What I'm hearing is Director Thornborough, obviously there could be some pending changes. And then I think Director Thornborough wants to dig into the revenue and expenditure, I'm just gonna call it assumptions for purposes of this discussion. We did look at those. He wants to look at those. He wants to look at those again and analyze those to see if there's any movement from on that. And I think that's a fair discussion if that's what the board wants to have. So yeah, I think that if the board wants to, it can revisit this so it's satisfied. It's looked at everything under the hood.
That's what we haven't been able to do. And that's what we've been asking for.
So the 18th, I just requested the 18th because we can't do Veterans Day, obviously.
Nope.
So I just requested the 18th to see if he's available. Is everyone?
Maybe I'm traveling to Tennessee. Oh, this November?
November 18th.
Check the calendar.
And if you had to do a virtual setting, we could also do you as a virtual setting and we could just teleconference your
We do.
location.
I'm all right on 18.
If we do the 18th, I'd probably have to do it in the morning and it would have to be virtual.
Yeah, we're looking at doing it in the morning, sometime like 9 or 10.
Yeah, it'd have to be for me virtual. And if I can't be here, I'll have Luffy do it virtually.
This thing close your eyes.
From my perspective, what Sanjay is doing is he's making the assumption that we're getting no other revenue than through the ratepayers.
Right, but he's not giving us options. He's given us his best guess, which
That's
is,
not his, in my opinion, that's not his job.
no,
His job is to look at what it's gonna cost the district and have no other revenue. That's what we've contracted for.
I
We
get that.
haven't contracted and say, we'll do plan A and plan B and plan C.
So,
In
but
my opinion, I think what's important to look at is that, what do we think? This is the ceiling,
right,
that if we have no revenues, we will have to do this. I don't think we have to do this. Last year, when I look at the water going in Stumpy, I see no reason why we cannot transfer water and make that decision within the first 6 months of 2025.
well, look at our budget.
And after we look at that and that revenue, then we can make a long-term decision. It's my opinion that we should increase the rates by maybe 1/3, 2/3 of what they recommend for 6 months and come back and look at it.
Yeah.
Let's look at what the actual revenues, I mean, what Sanjay can do is just, well, gee, if we get this grant and that pays for this capital expense, then we can move capital expenses. There's so many variations.
Or we have the
Then we
option
don't
to
have to
change
do
it at any time.
And we
Just
can,
down.
what my feeling is that let's raise them incrementally from that 15% across the board by the appropriate ratio to all the users.
Well, that's
But
what,
then come back and look at it, because we're not operating with full knowledge of what the future is gonna be.
So
I can
just-
only guess that we can get at least $400,000 out of the transfer. Now, if I recall looking at the cost of service, it was 150,000 for the first year, which is an error, but 300,000 a year. If we adopt everything, the district is gonna gain 300,000 a year. We can get that easy through a transfer.
Well, why can't we
We
do
do
it
a
6
transfer.
months, six
Sorry.
months later and you have bird in the hand, you know, it's 6
That's
months.
my point.
Yeah,
It's my opinion and it's discussion
You absolutely can do that.
that I would like to see us adopt a fraction of what he recommends for the first 6 months.
So you
Maybe
can,
2/3 of what he recommends,
just to
maybe
put it
half.
in the back of your mind, is we've had some consulting work done on how often we can do a transfer. It is between, generally, every 3 years.
Every
You don't
3
wanna do it more, you don't wanna count on doing it more than that.
And a transfer would be in the neighborhood of 400 to 600,000.
I mean, I would hate to speculate. It could be more than that. You'd never. know.
Could. But when we look at, if we could get 1/3 of what we need for water transfers securely, there's no reason. If we get other funds coming in through solar, by reducing our PG&E bill.
Yeah.
And, 3 years from now, we may have hydro, I don't know. But my idea is to look at this incrementally, and what we're asking Sanjay to do is not a hurt his.
But I do think, sorry, even under that, I think you want to get Sanjay's perspective on that headed into the December 12th meeting.
and he's got that spreadsheet. That was what I was trying to
Oh,
say,
yeah.
sorry. That he can manipulate that spreadsheet and we can see the numbers
Yeah,
move.
that's
That was
what he
why.
wants to do. So he'll have his modeler,
Yeah.
remember Nancy, she can come in and change the percentages and you can see where there's pitfalls or, maybe it's close, maybe we can, potentially rely on some other revenue source that would help us. So I did speak to Sanjay. I see you're Henry, so I'm not trying to just keep talking to him. He agreed to 3 o'clock on Monday.
He said he had to have it in the morning.
I just talked to him too. I'm talking to him too.
I can make 3 o'clock work for this board. I just can't be there in person.
Director Saunders.
We have a meeting set for 3 o'clock. I think that's when we should meet to go over numbers. Going over numbers now is not gonna help us. I mean, I have also reached out to Sanjay individually so we can have different options as well. That's the key. We wanna bring our proposals so we can have what are the options. So not only can he present it and go over with us, but we also want it so it's at our public hearing as well. So I agree with what Mike Dornborough is trying to do, and we can do this at the meeting that's set up.
I just think we should have it all, our options ready to go, understood and worked out and everything, so that at the 12th, we can say, okay, it passed, this is what's gonna be implemented starting January 1.
So
bring
we
your
at 3
plans and
PM on the
ideas.
18th.
3 PM on the
Is that
18th.
right?
Bingo. That's all.
Liz will send out a notice to you all. It'll just be a special meeting. If anybody needs to attend virtually from the board, please just let us know where your address is. We'll either have Loot Fee here virtually and Frank either Loot virtually and then Sanjay virtually with his person Nancy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Plus you got a piece of my mind.
Yeah.
We'll discuss that later.
It's a great week for democracy at the local level. I'm not making a comment about anything else.
right, that was the comment.
No, I just wanted to say that I disagree, and I don't see why we can't.
They're trying to have a sidebar conversation that we need to stop.
What do you,
I just say that I disagree. I think that as often as I know that we would plan to make any adjustments mid-course if there were extra revenue. And with the options of being able to do that at any time, or at least annually. I don't see what we're doing now is wrong, or I agree with you, but as frequently as I believe these things will probably happen, I don't know why we have to guesstimate or estimate what may or may not happen when we may not know by then. And in advance, just if we get some revenue, then after the fact, do it instead of trying to guess in advance and still not hit it in the nail on the head. So we're still not gonna hit the nail on the head. It's a moving target all the time. I guess I'm missing something, but.
yeah, you are.
Mhm.
All right, let's.
We have,
let's move on.
we have,
We got a date set.
Frank, I'd like to know what I'm missing.
no, I'm just gonna say we have a majority of the board that's given this direction, so.
All right, but I didn't. Now I did.
No, I'm not saying you can't give your direction. I'm just saying, I think.
I just don't understand. That doesn't make sense, but it's the minutia that I don't agree. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, my question is on the notice that was sent out, the 2/18. There is no date on it. The envelope had no cancellation date.
The date is right there. It's the
Where?
first page, the second line. It says 6 PM, December 12th.
No, the 45-day waiting period. You have to do 45 days before that date. So this does not say when it was mailed out, and your envelope doesn't.
We have a mail tracking as when it was all mailed out. And
So
it was all mailed out 48 days before.
So it was on Monday?
Correct.
Okay, I'm just saying that you would think that, for the Prop 218 rules, that it should have a date on here somewhere.
So we consulted with our legal counsel and we followed the letter of the law.
Okay, so you have a certificate of mailing, basically.
100%.
Okay, and then how many, I'm assuming you have some returned envelopes because T Palmer went like this to us, he got that many back.
A few.
And then you're processing to try to get it to them? Or just letting them sit?
We are taking the ones and if we can determine what the right address is, we'll get them to them.
Okay, because there is a parcel map or total thing that you can get from the county that has that.
We did.
Okay,
So the legal requirement,
well, he still had a whole stack returned, so.
I
I'm
understand.
just saying.
We did, what legal counsel recommended, and we got a assessor list, and we assessed it against our list, and we sent out everything the legal way.
And then my only other comment is on that last, no vote paper. You probably should have put wastewater ALT only.
Well, they're gonna have to put their service in.
Well, you don't think somebody's gonna check both those boxes?
So they're gonna have
Oh,
to
yeah.
have another piece of information that we have to cross-reference. If
Yeah.
it's,
When you
they can check wastewater, and if they live in Garden Valley, it just,
Yeah.
that portion of it just isn't part of the
Well, I'm just
calculation.
saying it would have been like clarifying. I think I mentioned it last month, but.
Mr. Dowd, you have a question?
No,
Okay. I'll now close for public comment. A motion, this was supposed to be for discussion. What's the
This
motion?
discussion, there's no motion.
Okay.
Okay, ding ding.
Ding ding.
We do have a closed session tonight.
Right, that's where I'm going. This time I'd like to close at 4:40 PM for closed session.
Okay, Steve.
We're gonna adjourn into closed session.
What's that, sir?
Alright, we're gonna invite you to a breakout room, Fran.
All right.
Yes, that makes me have a 5-minute.
Are we gonna take a minute?
It's a short closed session, I promise.
You're muted. You're muted. You're muted, Nick.
Okay, now you guys are unmuted.
I'm just talking in here to them about a short closed session, that's all.
We're muted or?
We haven't, have we adjourned in closed session yet? If we're,
Yes.
Be quick, because I promise it's gonna be short.
It's gonna be quick.
Okay, you should have an invite to your breakout room, Frank.
applesauce.
That's kinda cool.
Or they did a trick, trick or treat, I did a trick, they were bummed out.
Okay, can we get
I'm
this,
gonna start us recording.
See, we're waiting.
so No more niceties.
Oh. Okay. Returning back from closed session, 4:52 PM. And with that, I have nothing to report out, and I'd like to ask at this time for any board member requests for additions or requests for future agenda items. Nope. Nope.
Nope.
Nope.
I'm shocked.
With none,
I'm hungry.
um. Then I'll move to the next meeting date and adjournment. It will be December 12th at 2 PM at the church, Cool Cave Quarry Road. And I'd like to ask for a motion at this time.
Most to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
All right.
Hi.
Aye.
We have the
Motion,
November meeting with Sunday.
Yeah, that's not a regular meeting. We don't call it, we don't
Okay.
call it
regular meeting
Closed. Aye.
at 5:53 PM, 4:53 PM. Thank you.
Trying to-